Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching first part of What If Kid Naruto Found Uzumaki Clan Secrets. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
For Sarutobi, a real lunch break was uncommon. Normally, lunch was eaten in his office, so being able to leave was a treat. Additionally, it was uncommon for his lunch break to coincide with the regular lunch hours. He happened to pass the academy on his way today. He glanced toward the direction from which a group of academy students had run. The elderly village chief found what he witnessed to be a rather strange sight. He noticed a young, orange-clad blonde sitting on a swing. The boy's expression was unusual, but the sight itself was not. The boy Sarutobi considered a second grandson, and hopefully his successor, was staring at the ground, not in depression or sorrow, but in deep thought, with just a hint of self-doubt. Wondering just what had happened, the Sandame walked over. "Is something the matter, Naruto-kun? You seem distracted." "Ah, hey OG-san. It's just something I've got on my mind." "Did something happen at the academy today?" "Not much. Just a lecture on famous or important shinobi in Konoha history. I didn't think it was that bad at first, but..." "What about it?" "It eventually turned into something like, if you're from a major clan, you're someone important. If you aren't, you won't amount to anything." "Ah, I see. Are you giving up on your dream to replace me?" Sarutobi asked in a lighthearted manner, but his concern was genuine. Not only because of the potential consequences if Naruto decided he no longer wanted to protect the village, but more significantly because he would have to continue with the damned paperwork if he decided he no longer wanted his job. There were now only two individuals in the whole village who had both declared their intention to become Hokage and the possibility of succeeding. One was Naruto, and the other was Konohamaru, his biological grandson. Even with the council, the entire village, and even the fire daimyo on his side, Sarutobi had ensured that no amount of scheming would allow Danzo to get his hands on the Hokage position, despite Danzo's desire for the position. "No, I still want your hat, but the lecture made it sound as if you had to be from a major clan in order to ever be really great. I think I know better than anyone else how hard it is to try to become a ninja without generations of shinobi in your family, or without clan techniques to learn." Sarutobi was struck by how mature Naruto could be when he so desired as he listened. Sigh. "If only you were aware of the reality. Well, perhaps I can be of some assistance. At least some of it appears to be something he is prepared for. Naruto-kun, after the academy lets out for the day, stop by my office. There's something I think you should have." "Huh? What do you mean, OG-san?" The elderly man only said, "You'll see." He then left to get lunch before coming back to the tower to confront an opponent who seemed unbeatable. After 3 hours, Naruto crept over to the Hokage tower. Last time, he had tried to walk in like everyone else did. That didn't work out so well, and Naruto ended up hanging upside down from a nearby tree while being beaten by a few shinobi and other villagers. Fortunately, the elderly man heard the commotion and personally stepped in. Since then, he had not seen them. He looked and sighed with relief as he came within sight of the tower. From his perspective, the two guards outside the tower were among the nicer shinobi. Since they were on duty, he would be able to enter the tower unharmed because two Anbu members, Inu and Neko, were in plain sight and positioned to swiftly stop any potential incident. He smiled at the guards as he entered the tower, forcing himself to ignore the glares he received when he stepped out into the street. Upon arriving at the waiting area outside the Hokage's office, the secretary instructed him to enter immediately. Sarutobi was thanking the kami for the fact that, instead of the typical 50.60 growth, his paperwork had only increased by about 25 during his absence. The sound of the door opening caused him to look up, and he smiled when he saw Naruto come in. "Ah, good. You made it in safely." "Sure did, OG-san. The villagers didn't do anything more than glare since Inu-san and Neko-chan were out there." After Naruto sat down, Sarutobi inhaled deeply and started to arrange his thoughts. "Well, take a seat and let's get started. Naruto, what I have to tell you is going to be very difficult for you, I would imagine. It concerns your parents." "My parents? You know who my parents were? Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Yondaime himself, before he died, ordered me not to tell you any of this until I thought you were ready. Even now, I can't tell you everything. Some of it will have to wait until either you turn 16, or make chunin, whichever comes first." Naruto was stunned by that. Had the old man been told by the Yondaime to keep his parents quiet? What on earth might have caused him to do that? And there was more that he would have to wait to learn? He was presumably the quietest he had ever been when he asked, Are my parents still alive?" Sigh. No, your mother died soon after you were born. The Kyuubi attack sent her into premature labor, and the stress was just too much. She lived just long enough to name you, and died. Your father died fighting the Kyuubi. Hearing that made Naruto's eyes a little dimmer, especially the part about his mother's death. I see. Then what am I doing here? You're here to find out about your mother and her family, the Uzumaki clan. Naruto's head jerked upward. Wait, the Uzumaki clan. And what about my dad's family? Your father's side of the family is what you need to wait for. It was part of what I was told to do concerning you. I was told by the Yondaime that when I judged you ready, to tell you about your mother. When you met either of the requirements for your father's will, you would find out then. Wow. So what can you tell me about my mom? Her name was Uzumaki Kushina, heiress of the Uzumaki clan, from Uzu no Kuni. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. Wait, heiress? And was my family named after the country, or was the country named for my family? Uzu no Kuni was named for the numerous whirlpools which dotted her coast. The Uzumaki clan. Being one of the few shinobi clans in the area, they were among the strongest before their demise during the country's collapse. Whoa. So I'm the last Uzumaki? You are the last known Uzumaki in existence. It's always possible that some of the other clan members survived. For that matter, you are also the last known member of your father's clan. I thought you couldn't tell me about him yet. You're right, Naruto.kun. I can't tell you much about him. I can't give you his name or whatever inheritance he may have left you, not yet. I can, however, share other, more general, information. Oh, so what else do I need to know? Since you aren't that far into the academy, I'll try to simplify this. The Uzumaki clan, in general, had either water or wind as their primary affinity, with the other one as their secondary affinity. This means that they could use Suiten and Fuden jutsu more easily than the other three types. One of the other pieces of information on your father's clan I can tell you is that they also shared these two affinities, although on occasion, some showed an affinity for Raiden as well. So do I have a Kekai Genkei or something like that? Well, I'm not sure about that, honestly. Neither of your parents' clans had one, but there is a possibility that the mixture of the two could result in one. We haven't noticed one in you yet, but that could always change later. I'll let you know if anything happens, then. So, what made you decide I was ready for all of this, Oji.san? Our conversation earlier, at the academy. Both your parents and their clans believed that relying solely on Kekai Genkei or clan techniques was foolish. They also felt that such things did not merit special treatment. At this, Naruto blinked. But in Konoha, that's exactly how things are. If you come from a clan with a Kekai Genkei, you're almost guaranteed to be treated like royalty here. The Teme is proof of that. How could my parents stand it? Sarutobi nodded calmly. They struggled with it. They hoped that they would be able to change that. They argued with most of the village on the subject. Both clans had believed for a very long time that reliance would eventually weaken the shinobi, and become more of a liability than an advantage. So, both clans made it a point to learn as much as they could in any area. They not only learned many different ninjutsu of all types, but Tai, General, Ken, and even Fuinjutsu. They also expanded that philosophy into non-shinobi areas, too, learning many different crafts and skills. You come from two families of very self-reliant people, Naruto.kun. When I heard you talk about that lecture, I knew you were ready. Naruto was stunned at this point, his mouth agape. He had discovered a startling amount about people he would never meet in just over an hour. Despite his lack of emotional ties to either side of his family, he discovered that he was oddly driven to try his hardest to meet their high expectations. After taking a little time to gather his wits, he asked, "So, what's next?" Sarutobi saw the expression on Naruto's face and responded before the question was even posed. "Next come your mother's clan techniques. I said your parents did not approve of relying on clan techniques, not that they didn't have any. I have had the honor of seeing 6 of your mother's most powerful clan jutsu in action, one of which qualifies as an ARNK kinjutsu, and have knowledge of a 7th, an S-rank kinjutsu." At this point, nothing could have taken Naruto out of the office. What are they? Sarutobi quietly rose from his chair, moved to the rear of his office, and unlocked a secret safe concealed behind a fake wall featuring images of the Hokage title holders. After taking out 2 scrolls, he went back to his desk. He gave Naruto one of the scrolls, which had a spiral emblem sealed on it. I was informed that there is a complete library beneath what was once the Uzumaki clan compound in Uzu no Kuni. When you are ready, you will go there and retrieve it, if you wish. To this day, the library remains undisturbed, as it can only be found, let alone opened, by a blood member of the Uzumaki. That Naruto is everything of the Uzumaki clan archives that can be found within the walls of Konoha. After waiting a short while for the boy to comprehend that, Sarutobi went on. Now, on to the jutsu I mentioned. Acheron, the river of sorrow. Cocytus, the icy river of lamentation. Phlegethon, the river of fire. Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. And Styx, the river of hate, are said to have been the 5 rivers that once flowed through hell. The 6th river, Mnemosyne, or the river of memory, was also mentioned in rumors. The Uzumaki clan was endowed with the power to summon these waters during combat, with disastrous results. At last, Naruto managed to say, "That's only 6, and which 2 were the Kinjutsu?" His mother's family could have done that, and they decided not to overuse it. When used in combat, each river would have the corresponding effect. An adversary would be engulfed in grief by the waters of the Acheron. Even without fuels, Phlegethon waters would burn non-stop, and so forth. The A-rank Lethe water would make the target forget anything the user wanted them to remember. Imagine being able to cause your opponent to forget every technique he or she knows, or making their body forget how to activate a Kekkei Genkai, even if their mind still remembers how. Hell, you might even cause their body to lose its ability to channel chakra correctly, which would undermine their control. Chalk. White and bug-eyed, Naruto found his voice. Holy crap, I'm almost afraid to ask about the S rank. Mnemosyne is the S rank, and the one I have never seen. The water would cause someone who drank or was soaked with it to become all-knowing, a mortal god, as it were. The jaw of Naruto reached the floor and then passed through it. Yowza. That's definitely an S rank jutsu. I'm not finished. The human mind is not capable of handling that kind of power. As a result, the afflicted person is driven incurably insane. How is this possible? To call upon the rivers of hell, it would be like summoning the Shinigami to battle your foes. Sarutobi almost described the last moments of the Kyuubi attack, but Naruto saw him wince. I know. It seems too good to be true, yet it is. Finally, the 7th technique is a summoning technique that can only be done near a large, open body of water, like a sea or an ocean. It is known as Kachiyose. Charybdis. It summons a creature who then creates a giant, inescapable, whirlpool to consume your enemies. Naruto was now breathing in short, ragged gasps and holding the Uzumaki scroll tightly enough to whiten his knuckles. I don't know what to say, Oji-san. This is unbelievable. My mother's clan could do stuff like this, and chose not to. Also, how in Kami's name could they have gained the ability to do this? Sarutobi nodded, closed his eyes, and mumbled something. He continued, Naruto-kun, to answer your last question, I have no idea. I never had the chance to ask your mother about it. I would suspect that you might find the answer in the Uzumaki library when you're older. Naruto looked at the second scroll for the first time and said, Alright, now what's with the other scroll? As he showed Naruto the emblem holding this scroll closed, Sarutobi responded, This is your father's clan scroll. Your final inheritance when you are ready. I can't give it to you yet, but I want you to know what it looks like and where it is kept. The wind was blowing across the sea, creating waves. Then he put the scroll back in the safe, locked it, and put it away again. Why is that? I am a ninja, not to mention Hokage, and am required to be realistic. No matter how hard I may try, there is always the chance that I will not be the one to give you this. I may, sometime in the next few years, find someone to become the Godem, and retire again. You would then need to get the scroll from them. I am also an old man, and have lived well beyond the average life expectancy for a ninja. I may die before you meet the requirements to obtain your father's will. Naruto was sobered by that. Oh, so, what now? Sarutobi gave Naruto a white card with seals on one side and said, I want you to channel some chakra into this. I've seen some shinobi use things like this, but they didn't have seals on them. Those are used to test one's primary affinity. This will analyze the strength of your affinity to all 5 elements. Okay. Naruto saw 5 bars of various colors appear on a graph as he channeled chakra into the paper. He returned the card to the Sandaime and awaited the decision. Well, wind is your primary affinity. Water is second, like I said it would be. You have a mild affinity for earth, not as strong as wind and water, but better than average. Fire and lightning, however, are almost beyond your grasp. It will take a lot more effort to properly learn, use, or master those elemental techniques. So if I want to use a lot of fire and lightning jutsu, they're going to be very difficult? Yes. It will take about 2 or 3 times more effort than someone who has it as a primary affinity. Huh. Well, I really don't know how much more I can handle. This caused a smirk to creep into the old man's This should make you laugh a little. One last thing before you leave, then. If she's a kunoichi, it would be best for her to be a wind or water affinity as well when you eventually get married. He was not let down. That was enough to make Naruto lose his mind, and he fell out of the chair and blacked out. Sarutobi laughed and ushered Naruto to a couch on the side of his office, which is typically used when he needs a break but is unable to leave the building. Ah, that was worth it. He heard the groan and moans that marked Naruto's resuscitation 30 minutes later. What in the elemental countries happened? Heh. You took in a little too much in one sitting. Yeah. I'll be going, then. I want to start reading this as soon as I can. Actually, that's a storage scroll. Inside are seals containing pretty much everything your mother wanted you to have now. I'd imagine inside you'd find information on clan policies, taijutsu styles, other clan jutsu, and things like that. You might even find pictures or a journal. Oh, cool. I'll have to visit if there's something I don't understand. For some reason, the academy teachers don't answer my questions. Sigh. I don't think this is true. I'm too old to do this. Feel free to visit when you can. You'll probably get some experience in my job if you do. Cool. One thing I want to figure out is how to take care of all this paperwork. You always seem to be doing that whenever you're here, and I don't want to be stuck in here all the time. Naruto.kun, if you can find a way to defeat this paperwork, I will personally train you to take over for me. The boy grinned broadly at that. Be careful. I might just take you up on that offer. If you can show me a way to finish this up in less time, you will have earned it. Naruto said, I'll see what I can think of, then. Bye Oji.san. And left for Ichiraku's before returning home. Naruto had received his mother's inheritance from the Hokage 2 weeks prior. Naruto had made good use of the time. He had gone over the clan information multiple times, visiting Sarutobi when he needed clarification. He had discovered how his mother had ended up in Konoha, thanks to the scroll and the Sandaime. The Uzumaki clan decided that there was a very good chance that the clan would be destroyed 5 years prior to Naruto's birth, prior to the death of Uzu no Kuni. They therefore made the decision to implement a fail-safe strategy. They requested favors and made arrangements for one Uzumaki clan member to visit and live in each of the 5 major ninja villages. In this manner, someone would theoretically be able to protect and rebuild the clan, regardless of what happened to the majority of it. Sarutobi explained what had transpired with the other 4. Unfortunately, the clansman who was dispatched to Kirigakure became entangled in a riot that followed the Bloodline Massacre. The Uzumaki was not a target because he lacked a Kekkei Genkei. Being in the wrong place at the wrong time, he was a bystander. The Raikage's supporters had taken issue with the Uzumaki that was sent to Kumogakure. The Raikage had lusted after the Hyuga clan's Byakugan even back then, thinking it would give them power. According to Uzumaki beliefs, the clan member had made multiple arguments about how a rise in power would not be guaranteed by the Byakugan and the Juken alone. She was tortured and horribly mutilated before being discovered dead. There were no concerns about breaching the agreement guaranteeing her safety because the rest of the clan had already fallen by this time. The third individual had been sent to Iwagakure and was identified by Sarutobi as Naruto's cousin. He never showed up. About halfway through the trip, an unidentified group ambushed the escort party, and the scent recovery team was unable to locate his body. Sarutobi informed Naruto that this cousin would be the only other surviving Uzumaki. Ultimately, the woman who was sent to Sunagakure passed away not long after arriving there. Bandits attacked the caravan that was transporting her to Suna. She assisted in chasing them away, but a bandit delivered a fatal blow. She passed away in the hospital in Suna 2 days later. At this point, Naruto was getting ready to attempt learning some of his clan's skills. The fact that over half of the jutsu listed as Uzumaki could only be performed close to a large body of water, such as an ocean or sea, or, in the absence of that, a deep, swift, moving river, irritated him. Naruto no Jutsu was one such jutsu that was just not possible to use in landlocked Konoha. If nothing else, the fact that it bore his name had made him eager to learn about it. Additionally, Sarutobi had assisted him in getting ready for the day when he would be able to learn the 6 river techniques. To use the techniques, a set of seals had been included in the scroll with the information on it, and they had to be applied somewhere on the body. When applied correctly, the seals resembled tattoos and were nothing more than sets of kanji representing the characteristics of each of the 6 rivers: sadness, hatred, etc. Naruto had them put between his shoulders when he was asked where he wanted them. He was currently preparing to attempt one of the chakra control exercises that the Uzumaki clan had specifically created. He wasn't doing so well with the leaf, even though the academy teachers had shown the students one. When they weren't completely ignoring him, they would chastise him for his lack of improvement. Then he had read in the scroll that, by default, an Uzumaki had poor chakra control using the standard control exercises, until they had at least attempted the Uzumaki ones. He had talked to the old man in the hopes that this would solve his problems, and now Inu.san was going with him to a training ground that was deserted. The scroll stated that a naturally occurring whirlpool was necessary for the exercise. Naruto had to improvise because Konoha was landlocked, and the scroll had given him a way to complete the exercise inland. A pool of water that was at least 5 feet deep and 10 feet wide was all that was needed. There was a small waterfall with a basin that matched the specifications at the training area Naruto was going to. In order to avoid being sucked under, he would need to use a technique to create a whirlpool in the basin and then use chakra to hold himself on top of it. He would have to be able to walk against the current inside a whirlpool spinning at full speed in order to master the exercise. This would have appeared and sounded absurd to any onlooker. One of the academy students, trying a more difficult walking exercise? But Naruto knew how to teach him without hurting his feelings. The whirlpool's size and speed were determined by the amount of chakra used in the jutsu that would produce it. Inu.san would be in charge of the technique because he was unable to use the jutsu and hold himself up simultaneously or control the chakra used appropriately. Inu.san could swiftly cancel the jutsu and remove Naruto if he fell in. Naruto had no qualms about teaching Inu.san how to use this nameless technique because it was created especially for training. When they got there, Naruto put down a backpack with a change of clothes and a few towels. He wore a white undershirt and black swimming trunks for this workout because, if at all possible, he didn't want to walk home in a sopping wet orange jumpsuit. From behind the porcelain dog mask, a slightly distorted voice said, "Ready, Naruto-kun?" Naruto nodded, and the Anbu started to spin the water by channeling chakra into it. A whirlpool that matched the exercise's beginner's level description had developed in less than a minute. After focusing for a moment, Naruto started to channel chakra to his feet as instructed. He didn't stay on top at all, as one might anticipate, but it didn't matter for this. For novices, it was important to keep your hands off the bottom and use chakra to stay in one spot as long as you could. You would then push yourself farther out of the water until you could stand on it as your control improved. It was chilly, but not unbearably so. Additionally, the water became a little warmer thanks to Inu.san's chakra. It had been warmed enough to where Naruto wouldn't be risking hypothermia. It might have been better if there hadn't been a waterfall that kept adding cold water and a stream that removed the heated water. An hour later, Naruto was ordered to leave so that Inu.san could rest his chakra coils. The Anbu grumbled, "Geez, creating and sustaining the whirlpool must double as a chakra building technique. It's harder than it looks." That may be true, but the control part of it sure works. Check it out. Naruto had chosen to find out if the leaf exercise had made a significant difference, and it had. The leaf had previously hovered around a foot above its intended height, but Naruto's efforts over the last hour had reduced it by 2 or 3 inches. Interesting. Normally, you would be a chunin before you could hold the leaf that far off your body. Really? So I'm almost chunin level? That's awesome, Naruto began to scream. Whoa, hold on there. The only things remotely close to chunin level about you are your stamina and chakra reserves. The combination of chunin level chakra reserves and Academy student level control is just asking for trouble. So, do you think maybe that's why I have so much trouble with the Bunshin? My henge and kawarimi are pretty bad too, but I can at least make them work halfway decently. It is possible. Normally, by the time a ninja makes chunin, or even chunin, they've already learned an advanced Bunshin jutsu, and either stop using the academy one altogether, or only use it rarely. To be honest, the only shinobi I can think of that regularly use the basic Bunshin are the academy teachers. Naruto begged, even trying puppy dog eyes, advanced Bunshin? Can you teach me one? Please? But all it accomplished was to make the Anbu laugh? Nice try, but that doesn't work on me. Only women can pull that off really well. As for the jutsu, I don't think so. If you already a genin, I'd consider it, but not an academy student. Crud. Then, would you at least tell me about them? Okay, I'll tell you about the 2 most common Bunshin techniques besides the academy one. Then, we go back to training. Deal? Naruto was happy that he had received that much Anbu. You got it, he exclaimed. Normally, no one besides the old man would answer his questions. Alright. After the academy level Bunshin, the most common technique is the Mizu Bunshin, which forms solid clones from nearby water sources. If there isn't a water source nearby, you need to pull water from the air around you, which is very difficult. Only the Naidame was good enough to do it on a regular basis, earning him a reputation as a very powerful ninja. After that, there's the Tsuchi Bunshin. Again, it forms solid clones, this time out of the ground around you, so it can be used in more places. Now then, back into the water. Okay. Thanks for the info though. Should I try holding myself in place longer, or start trying to push myself out of the water? Well, whatever you do, don't go one way or another. In order to master this, you need to be able to do both at the same time. You can't do that if you don't try to combine the two at some point before then. Right now, I'd focus more on staying in place more, and try to raise yourself up a little bit. Oh, okay. With that, Naruto resumed the exercise, trying to work on two different things at once. Naruto was able to keep himself 2 inches above the water and hold his own for 10 minutes or so by the time the two made the decision to end the day. Not great, but not bad for a single day's work. Additionally, he was so proficient at the leaf exercise that any student, aside from him, could have passed. So, 4 o'clock on Monday, Naruto.kun. Yeah, that should work. I'll be done with the academy for the day by then. I think I'll just spend the rest of today working on a clan taijutsu style I saw. The scroll says that a master of this style can beat both the Sharingan and the Byakugan. The Anbu took notice of that. Many ninja claim to have developed a style like that, but they've all failed, so how does yours work? Well, both dojutsu allow the user to see chakra. So, to counter them, you channel so much chakra that it either blinds them if you're fighting a Hyuga, or makes it so they can't see what you're doing, if it's a Uchiha. They would know only the most general of movements, like which direction you would come in it, or if you're going to punch or kick, but wouldn't be able to see if it is a closed fist, an open fist, or a hand weapon attacking. Also, doing this prevents them from copying jutsu. They can't copy the seals if they can't see the seals, right? The Anbu couldn't decide. In theory, it makes sense, but how does he know so much, I suppose, but how do you know so much about their Kekai Genkei? That sort of information is highly classified. Before she died, my mom took notes on all the Kekai Genkei in the village, and came up with a bunch of possible strategies on how to beat them. It's up to me to see if any of them work, though. In the shinobi world, the Uzumaki's distaste for Kekai Genkei was legendary. Naturally, she would have wanted to prove her point here, where Kekai Genkei are revered. This should be interesting, the Anbu murmured to himself. The Anbu turned to face Naruto and said, Inu-san? My clan didn't dislike Kekai Genkei, at least not as much as what you might think. They disliked it when clans became dependent on them to fight. Second, you knew my mother? I knew of her, but I never really got the chance to meet her. What I do know is that she had a reputation as being a true kunoichi, not some pathetic fan. Girl type. Now, I thought you were orphaned at birth. How could you know about the Uzumaki clan? I was. Mom died after I was born, and my dad died fighting the Kyuubi. The Yondaime had ordered the old man not to tell me about Mom until I was ready. He told me about 2 or 3 weeks ago. What might have made you do that, sensei? What about your father and his family? Not much. Oji.san said that most of that would have to wait until I either turn 16 or make chunin. What I do know is that they had pretty much the same attitude as the Uzumaki on things like Kekai Genkei. Huh. What's so familiar about this sound? Anything else? Yeah. The rest of my inheritance is in a scroll in Oji-san's office, sealed with an emblem dealing with wind and waves. Naruto heard the sound of someone choking, and looked at the Anbu, only to see him lying on his back, coughing. By the kami. He can't possibly be Sensei's son, I mean, aside from the hair, the eyes, and… Oh shit. How could I have missed this? Damn it. He looks exactly like Sensei without the whiskers. You fool. Hitaki. Look beneath the surface and follow your own advice. Are you okay, Inu.san? Oh, yeah. A fly flew into my mask and down my throat. How is it possible for a fly to pass through that mask? Alright, I'll see you on Monday, then. Bye. With just one thought in his mind, Naruto left the Anbu to sit up and left the training area. I need to discuss this with Sandame Sama. Meanwhile, Sarutobi was going to have an unexpected guest at the Hokage Tower. Sandame Sama, Inu.san is here to see you. Sarutobi glanced up at his receptionist from his paperwork. Although there wasn't much paperwork to complete right now, the day had only just begun, and there were plenty of trees in the village to produce more. I wasn't expecting this at all. Send him in. Bowing, the receptionist backed out of the office as an Anbu in a dog mask walked in. Good morning, Hokage. Sama. Morning, Kakashi.san. No book today? This must be serious. I believe it is. It has to do with Naruto. I see. How did his training go yesterday? Very well. He is as good as can be expected from someone still in the academy. Also, the whirlpool technique apparently doubles as a chakra building exercise. Just from those few hours I was performing it, my reserves grew a noticeable amount. Yet that isn't what I was here for. Then what brings you here? I'll be blunt, Hokage. Sama. Is Naruto my sensei's son? The Sandame raised an eyebrow at that. An unusual question. Why do you ask? When we took a break, Naruto told me about his inheritance from his mother, and said that his father's will was in a scroll in your office, sealed with an emblem of wind and waves. Sensei was the only person in Konoha with that type of family crest. Also, once I got a good look at him, he looks too much like Sensei for it to be coincidence. Is there something I should know? I hoped he would have had more sense than to tell someone else about that scroll, but he is only 10. At any rate, you're right. He is the son and heir of Namikaze Minato, Yondaime Hokage, as well as Uzumaki Kushina. He is the last known living member of both clans. Why wasn't anyone told? It might have helped him get adopted. Surely Sensei could have arranged that for his son, rather than trust the villagers. Minato didn't trust the villagers. Wait, what? He said he wanted Naruto to seen as a hero. Doesn't that mean he had faith, however misguided, in the village? Yes and no. Yondaime believed in the village, but not the villagers. There is a difference. He was willing to lay down his life to protect the village. However, he was well aware of the fact that most of the villagers would probably ignore his dying wish. Yet, he gave them a chance to prove him wrong, by honoring his wish. So far, he's been proven right. He also made sure that Naruto couldn't be adopted, and set penalties in his will in case anything should happen to Naruto. He made sure Naruto couldn't be adopted. What penalties? You lost me, Hokage, Sama. If Naruto were to be adopted, his new parents would have complete control over his inheritance from both his mother and father. What would stop them from killing Naruto after that, and keeping everything? That was how Yondaime saw it, so he made it impossible for anyone, even me, to adopt him under most circumstances. I'm sorry to admit he seems to be right about that as well. And these penalties you spoke of? I'm not aware of all of them, but I know of some. There is a stipulation in the will leaving a very sizable amount of money to the village. It can only be accessed by Naruto himself when he turns 18. He also has final say in whether or not the money is ever given to the village. So the village could be stabbing itself in the foot for all we know. Why wasn't Naruto sent outside the village then? He could have lived the life you wanted for him elsewhere. The contract with the Uzumaki clan prevents that. When Kushina died, the contract passed on to Naruto, guaranteeing him residence within the village. Much as they might want to, the council can't exile Naruto or order his death, under any circumstances. Should either happen, we would lose much of our funding. Except for Naruto, isn't the Uzumaki clan dead? How could our funding be cut? There is one member who hasn't been located. Anyway, the contract was made using the fire daimyo as a middleman. Should anything happen to Naruto while he is within Hai no Kuni, short of death by an attacking foreign nin, or if he should die in the chunin exams, the daimyo is to cut our budget by about 30%, as is stated in the contract. Wow. They've really got us in a tight spot then. Yes, they do. The question remains, what are you going to do now with this information? I think I'm going to give Naruto a little bit of extra training. Nothing major, just some help correcting what the academy teachers might have done to sabotage him. Maybe teach him some easy jutsu. I don't think that's unreasonable. I see no problem with that, and will arrange for you to do so. I would, however, ask you to tell Naruto not to speak of his father's will. That must be kept a secret. Yes sir, Hokage. Sama. Now then, we need to get over to the academy soon. Naruto was shocked by his good fortune. The normal teacher was out sick, and the replacement teacher was the one teacher in the academy who seemed to like him, a chunin named Amino Uruka. Additionally, things were looking up because he had actually arrived on time, if not a little early. He just needed a decent seat now. Usually, he would try to sit next to Sakura-chan, but she had just gotten into a fight with Ino, the only other blonde student in the class, over who should sit next to Sasuke. Teme. Sakura had lost, and despite Naruto's occasional lack of intelligence, he decided it would not be wise to try to sit next to her today. As a result, he was seated beside Kiba and a shy girl wearing a big beige jacket. He merely hoped she wasn't also a fan of Sasuke. That was more than he could handle. Hey, is it alright if I sit here? Yeah, sure. What, you aren't even going to try today? Are you kidding? I can see the storm clouds over her head. I really don't feel like dying today. Fair enough. Grab a seat. The kunoichi.in. Training immediately began to fidget with her fingers and flush when Naruto took a seat across from her. The girl nodded and muttered something Naruto couldn't understand. Hinata, is it? Are you okay? You look like you're overheated. Maybe you should take off the jacket. That was too much for Hinata, who instantly blushed from head to toe and passed out. Iruka heard the thud at the front of the room and called out, "What happened up there?" Naruto replied, "Hinata overheated and passed out. At least I think she overheated. Maybe she's sick." Her face was red. Alright, let's begin today with a brief first aid lesson. If something similar occurs, get the person on the ground, place padding beneath her head, and raise her feet above her head. You may also want to take off any clothing that could impede her breathing. Iruka instructed Kiba and Naruto to remove Hinata's jacket and use it to cushion her head while the rest of the class watched. At this point, Kiba needed some tissues to stop his nose from bleeding when he got his first look underneath Hinata's jacket. Hey, Hinata is 10 years old and already more mature than any of the other girls here. Bravo. Rolling his eyes, Naruto continued. Man, I hope she's alright. If anything happens, I just know I'll be blamed. When Hinata finally awoke, she saw Naruto hunched over her, the other students following him. What the heck happened? Oh, you fainted. For a while, you might want to leave the jacket off, or at the very least, unzipped. Naruto said, "Hey, don't faint again." As Hinata was about to pass out again after noticing her jacket was off. "I just took off your jacket with Kiba." Her face flushed again, and she fainted again, proving that she had said the wrong thing. "Aw man. I sigh. Bring her down to the outdoor sparring field when Naruto awakens." Iruka then escorted the others out the door. Though Naruto's mind was racing, he leaned over Hinata to check if she was still breathing, but he was too close, and she grabbed hold of him and embraced him. "Oshish. Oshish. Oshish. This is awful. In fact, it feels mildly pleasant. Hey, she smells like lavender." Naruto.kun, you have my love. That made Naruto go pale. What did she just say? Maybe she just enjoys ramen with Naruto slices. That must be it. She couldn't have meant me, could she? He. With those whisker lines, you always look so adorable. Just makes me want to. I'm going to die, and I don't want to die. Crap, how could she think she likes me? We don't even know each other. Just before Hinata regained consciousness, Naruto was able to escape her grasp. En Naruto. K.kun. Hello, Hinata. Chan. Iruka. Sensei says we need to get down to the training field. Will you be okay? When Hinata heard the Chan added to her name, she nearly passed out again, but Naruto's statement regarding Iruka's orders prevented her from doing so. Oh. Okay, let's go then, Naruto.kun. Hinata failed to notice Naruto pale when she said his name. Yeah, let's go. In an awkward silence, the two made their way to the training field. When they got there, they saw the Hokage, a few Chunin, and 3 Anbu in addition to Iruka and their classmates. Upon noticing their arrival, Iruka gave the Hokage the signal to start. Alright, then. You're all probably wondering why you're all here. As some of you may remember, you were put through a test to determine your standing when you first arrived at the academy. We want to know how you are doing now that you are halfway through the academy. Your academy grades won't be impacted by this. It is only to let us know how well the academy is preparing you for life as a shinobi and teaching you as an individual. At this point, a lot of the students, mostly Sasuke's fangirls, began to worry because they knew that this could be embarrassing. For some reason, the academy prioritized bookwork more than physical training, so many students had cut back on their physical training to increase their study time. The old Hokage went on, "Don't worry, we won't be doing all of these evaluations at once. You will have plenty of time to get ready because they will take place in 2 weeks and be spaced out over 2 or 3 weeks. Now, are there any questions?" Sakura held up her hand. "What are we being tested on, Hokage-sama?" "Nice query. You will all be put to the test in a number of areas, including jutsu, weapons skills, stamina, chakra control, and stealth. Is a written exam available?" Another student asked a question. "No, the practical facets of shinobi life are covered in this evaluation. You take too many written exams from the academy, in my opinion. In my opinion, the majority of written tests are not very good at determining a person's level of shinobi proficiency." While most of the other students began to feel stressed, Naruto was overcome with relief at this point. I stand a chance. Thank you, Kami. A practical test. So, do you have any more questions? No? After that, allow me to explain why everyone is standing behind me. Before we start the test, they are available to help you hone any skills you would like to improve. This week will be dedicated to working with them and continuing your own training at your own pace. You will work with a different instructor every day. As a shinobi, this will also demonstrate your areas of specialization. Would you kindly allow the instructors to introduce themselves? Yash. I'm taijutsu expert Maeda Guy. I'm here to help you get more endurance. Get on board with the spring tie. Act. Abruptly, the strange man in green spandex grabbed his throat. I apologize for that, Guy. That's what I did. I'm Yuhi Kurenai, a genjutsu expert, and I'll be practicing chakra control with my group. I suppose I'll be up next. Sarutobi Asuma is the name, and I'll be assisting with projectile weapons. My name is Gecko Hack Hayate. I'm Koff, a kenjutsu expert, and I'll be practicing close quarters armed combat with Hack. Koff. The name's Shiranui Genma, and my group will be covering tracking and stealth. My group will be covering ninjutsu, and my name is Inu. I'm not teaching any, but you will learn tips on how to learn jutsu faster. Following the introductions, Sarutobi spoke once again. Additionally, you ought to be aware that Amino Iruka has consented to teach lessons on fundamental traps. Therefore, I advise you to divide up and select a teacher. Inu's group would likely be the largest, at least today, so Naruto decided against joining it in favor of more individualized attention. Naruto was conflicted. The chakra control group was out until he improved at his clan's personal ones, and since he could somewhat avoid Chunin and Anbu, he decided stamina could wait. As for tracking and stealth, he was unsure of what the kenjutsu teacher could do, but he knew what he was teaching was important, so he prioritized Asuma's class because he knew he needed help with kunai and shuriken throwing, and he ultimately chose to enroll in Iruka Sensei's trap making class. Although they didn't despise Naruto, they were concerned about his tendency to play practical jokes on his teachers, and since they were unaware of his training with Inu, Amino Iruka was the only teacher that Naruto appeared to pay attention to. Even he wasn't totally safe from Konoha's self-proclaimed prank king, so when they were asked to assist, the Chunin all went to Iruka to get advice on how to deal with Naruto. His response was straightforward. It's not really a trick. He won't do anything too bad if you just listen to him and show him respect. Put differently, treat him the same as the other pupils. It appeared that this wouldn't be too bad if his advice was successful. The week was over in no time. Naruto didn't have many issues, aside from a slight awkwardness when Hinata was present. Since he was still unsure of how to respond to what Hinata had said, he made the decision to keep it to himself and spend more time with her to gauge his feelings. He was certain that Hinata was pleasant to be around, despite her tendency toward shyness. The other teachers became more accepting of Naruto after they realized how wise Iruka's counsel was. Kurenai had apparently heard about the Uzumaki exercises from either Inu or the Hokage. Even Chunin would struggle with something like that, she said when discussing it with Naruto, and she questioned how an academy student could even try it. In response, Naruto said that the goal of the water walking exercise was to hold oneself in place without touching the ground and then push oneself out of the water until he had sufficient control to perform it. Kurenai and the other teachers who had listened wondered if the exercise would help them in any way. There had been a slight change in Naruto's private sessions with Inu-san. The Anbu had started to assist with the other facets of being a ninja, rather than just the control exercises. A portion of it, such as a mini lecture on the significance of each hand seal and how it affects a jutsu, was entirely beyond his comprehension. But Inu-san assured him that he would eventually grasp it. Although Inu-san had also assisted him with kunai and shuriken, he was also given basic instruction in the use of other weapons. Following a conversation between Naruto, Inu-san, and the Hokage, Naruto was being offered the opportunity to master one of the two sophisticated bunshin techniques that Inu had mentioned to him. Sarutobi had initially opposed it, questioning why Naruto needed to master a more complex technique before being able to use the simpler one. Inu retorted that although Naruto was already more in control than the majority of the other pupils, he was still unable to execute a simple bunshin. In addition to continuing the whirlpool exercise, Inu had Naruto start a new one, tree climbing, after he realized he could now complete the leaf control exercise correctly. Even though he was far from finished, it gave him a small advantage over his peers. Even though Naruto was the only person in the room who didn't know the true cause, Sarutobi gave it some thought after hearing that and wondered out loud what the issue might be. At last, Sarutobi gave in and inquired as to whether Naruto ought to try Tsuchi Bunshin or Mizu Bunshin. It was a difficult decision. Tsuchi would function well almost anywhere he went, while Mizu would work with his affinity. Since his future teacher would likely be familiar with the more popular Mizu Bunshin, it was ultimately decided to try teaching him Tsuchi Bunshin. The three of them were now in Naruto's regular training location, allowing him to acquire the jutsu covertly. Even though Sarutobi believed Naruto had potential, he still believed that he needed the basic Bunshin before he could advance. However, he had to concede that this had a chance of succeeding. He was well aware that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Naruto would still need to practice a new jutsu regardless of his performance. Never had he been so happy to be mistaken. Naruto was prepared to try after Inu demonstrated the seal sequence to him, and he replicated it for perhaps 5 or 6 minutes. Tsuchi Bunshin no Jutsu, he cried, and his first attempt began. An academy student's attempt was impressive. An arm reached out from the mound, thrashed about, and turned back into mud as a lot of earth gathered close to Naruto. He was able to manifest the entire upper half of his body for a second attempt with a little coaching. He mastered the technique after 5 attempts. Well, I'll be. Congratulations, Naruto.kun. You proved me wrong. That is a proper Tsuchi Bunshin. Now, you just need to work on forming them faster and in greater numbers. Alright. A new technique, just in time for that assessment. That reminds me, how come last year's class didn't do this? For several years, I have been arguing with the council over the academy standards and curriculum. I feel that the academy standards have relaxed too much lately. The focus on bookwork doesn't help, either. This year, for some reason, the council gave in, and agreed to an assessment of a class halfway through the academy. A set of standards was created for what should and should not be possible of those students. Should the majority of your class not meet those standards, the curriculum will be changed for the next year, in an attempt to fix the problems. I don't know, Oji.san. I'm guessing they did it so the Uchiha could show off. As if his ego wasn't already the size of the Hokage monument. Naruto could see that the question was significant. Perhaps he is a bit arrogant, but hasn't he earned that right? How has he earned it? He's treated nice because he's the last Uchiha. The teachers always try to help him, even though he won't accept it. Then, when I ask for help, they throw stuff at me and tell me to go away. The way I see it, the only thing he's really earned is his class ranking. At that, Sarutobi smiled slightly. Once again, the Uzumaki mindset surfaces. A determination to earn what you have, rather than have it given to you. You might be right. Sasuke is treated very well, but he has earned very little of it. Some of it stems from the fact that he watched his family die in front of him at the hands of his brother, and is acceptable, to a point. Much more, however, may come because he is as a result of that, the last Uchiha. One of Konoha's greatest weaknesses is the very issue we spoke of before I gave you the Uzumaki scroll. Then, when I become Hokage, I'm going to change it. I don't know how, but I'll do it. I wish you luck. The clans have grown used to their privileges, they will not give them up easily. Inu said, Naruto.kun, I have a question for you. What is it, Inu.san? You are listed as the dead last at the academy, and are generally viewed as a smiling idiot. Right now, however, you aren't acting like either. What is going on? Naruto smiled broadly. That's easy. Isn't one of the points of being a good ninja to be underestimated by your target? And isn't another point not showing what you're really capable of? Both of the shinobi nodded at him. Well, isn't the best way to do both to be seen as an idiot? The rookie of the year is expected to be the best out of his year. The dobi is supposed to be the worst, and is underestimated. This makes it easier to surprise your opponent. So, just how much of your performance at the academy is this act? The academy? Not much. I honestly suck at paper tests. So parts of your personality are just an act. What about the orange? The smile on Naruto's face faded. Sort of. It gets me attention, and I know it looks stupid. It's also my favorite color, and it's all any store in the village will sell me. The two adults took notice of that. One of the two spoke first. I wish you had told me sooner, Naruto.kun. I could have told you where you could buy something else. I've been to every store. Most chase me out, calling me demon and threatening to kill me. Well, I could have arranged to order you some clothing and other supplies from outside the village. That made Naruto tense. Really? Could you do that for me, then? Just what you think would work? Certainly. Since part of your monthly stipend is meant to cover clothing and supplies, I'll just take the money from there. Thanks, Oji.san. You're the greatest, I try. The evaluation had arrived and was nearly finished. Naruto had performed admirably better than almost everyone else. Based on their glares, he assumed that the majority of the judges had intended to fail him on every test. Unfortunately for them, they had to grade honestly because the Hokage was acting as an additional judge. The jutsu test was the final component, and it took place today. They needed to give it their all in their jutsu. While some would try one of their clan techniques, others would only be able to execute one of the academy's jutsu. Everyone clapped, some more loudly than others, after the Uchiha performed a Kaiden technique of some sort. Yamanaka Ino came last, followed by Naruto. The audience started muttering when Naruto's name was called. Since the Tsuchi Bunshin was currently one of his most dependable techniques, Naruto intended to perform it. Futon Daitopa, which he had discovered from the scroll in his mother's jutsu library, was his second best. The other two academy jutsu followed. The remarks made by his classmates were what irritated him the most. The Dobi's gonna make a fool out of himself in front of the Hokage. Naruto sucks, doesn't he? Sasuke.kun? HN. Dobi. In an attempt to silence the voices and relax, Naruto's fists clenched. One of the seals on Naruto's back started to glow, but no one could see it. The kanji for ice. Naruto was about to start screaming like a child and telling his classmates to stop talking when he experienced an odd sensation. A chilly, nearly icy feeling swept through his body. He instinctively held out his arms and shouted the name of the technique. Uzumaki Hijutsu. Yomi no Oikawa. Kokaitis. Streams of water spurted from his hands. The water immediately covered everything it touched with an inch of solid ice. Everyone in the audience fell silent. The Hokage stood calmly and moved down to where Naruto was standing, dodging the patches of ice that stood in his way. He approached an object that the jutsu had captured. Someone in the audience had thrown a kunai. Now frozen to the ground, it had been caught in mid-flight by the jutsu. He looked at it and thought of one thing. What fool attempts to murder someone with a kunai bearing the owner's name engraved on it in front of the Hokage? His manual attempts to free the kunai were unsuccessful. He discovered that the ice was rather obstinate and needed more heat to melt than ordinary ice, so he turned to Kaiden Jutsu. He had to use Kaiden Karyu Enden to melt the ice patch, which seemed excessive to him and everyone else who witnessed it. He releases the kunai and gives it to an Enbu for additional examination. Sarutobi turns to face Naruto and addresses him in a voice that only the two of them can hear. Naruto.kun, first off, that was very impressive. Second, you really shouldn't be practicing those jutsu unsupervised. Oji.san, I haven't even tried to do one before. All I know is that I was trying to calm down for this, and this weird feeling came over me. Then, I just called out his name, and well, this happened. I see. Well, I'll ask you not to try any of the other 5 for a while, at least not without my knowledge. Deal. Sarutobi spun around to confront the crowd, who were either frightened to death or preparing for an attack. Is there a problem? The audience sat down sheepishly, and Sarutobi made his way back to his chair. That kind of jutsu activation requires only willpower. Amazing. Furthermore, it appears that much more advanced jutsu is needed to counteract the river jutsu. That's good to know. With their mouths agape, Naruto turned back to face the other students. Sasuke. Teme, on the other hand, was grinding his teeth so forcefully that sparks were flying. Dobi. Where did you learn that jutsu? Didn't you hear me, Teme? Uzumaki Hijutsu. It's a clan technique. A random Sasuke fangirl said, you don't have any parents. How could you have any clan techniques? Obviously, I had some at some point. The Hokage just gave me my mother's clan scroll a couple weeks ago. That softened the stares a little. After he took a seat, his classmates abruptly switched places, putting him next to Hinata, who was trying to blend in with her jacket by mimicking a turtle. C. Conger. Congratulations, N. Naruto.kun. Thanks, Hinata. Chan. Hinata isn't that horrible, you know. But that stuttering. I wonder if her stuttering is a real speech issue or if she's just constantly anxious and shy. I simply need to learn more about her. The Hokage cleared his throat and yelled, will Yamanaka Ino please come down? After everyone had calmed down. Ino got to his feet, approached Shikamaru, and dragged him to the platform. Then she used the Shintenshin no Jutsu of her clan. Even though it was far from what was intended, it was still pretty amazing for a 10-year-old. Sarutobi stood and thanked the audience for attending as well as the students for their performance. The students were dismissed for the rest of the day. In stunned silence, Naruto sat in a chair in the Hokage's office. He had just experienced a night that changed his life. While some of his life's questions had been addressed, others had emerged to replace them. For him, the past 2 years had been comparatively calm. The attacks had virtually ceased after his performance at the assessment. It was an improvement, but he was still not welcome in most places. Since then, he could easily outrun drunken villagers who were the most frequent source of physical attacks. Following the assessment, the worst one had occurred during the Kyuubi festival. In an attempt to murder Naruto, a gang of shinobi and villagers banded together and broke into his apartment. Because he was so scared, Naruto instinctively used the second river technique, the Uzumaki Hijutsu. Yomi no Oikawa. Phlegathon. Almost everything in his apartment was destroyed by the ensuing fire. Despite being shaken, Naruto had survived largely unscathed. Oddly intact, the Uzumaki scroll had also escaped. Despite having been struck by the jutsu directly, it displayed no symptoms at all. In order to prevent the scroll from being destroyed, the Sandaime surmised that it was somehow impervious to the Uzumaki clan's techniques and perhaps to most forms of damage. Additionally, he surmised that the scroll contained a special seal or jutsu that, if necessary, would destroy it. Only a few items of clothing and supplies were found. Although severely burned, the attackers also made it out alive. After receiving medical attention at the hospital, they vanished from sight. It was later found that Naruto could control what the jutsu burned with practice. He had the option to direct the fire to burn only a particular target, sparing everything else, or to burn everything except a selected item or set of items. Sarutobi was aware of the possibilities for this. In a group setting, Naruto could burn a document to ash without hurting anyone else or erect a fiery barrier that only specific individuals could safely cross. Additionally, it was verified that countering the river jutsu did take more work than their typical counterpart. Even though Naruto's apartment was the only place where the fire had not spread, it still took more water to extinguish it than it would have if the entire building had been on fire. After the investigation, Sarutobi was able to find Naruto a better place to live. Inu, or Kakashi when he wasn't on duty, was now in charge of him. After reading the Yondaime's instructions for Naruto, Sarutobi discovered that he had misunderstood a portion of them. Although Naruto was still not available for adoption, Yondaime had 3 people she trusted to take him in if necessary. One was Sarutobi, the second was Kakashi, and the third was Jiraiya, Minato's sensei. He sincerely apologized to Naruto for the incident. Even though it was only with someone who had grown to be an older brother figure to him, Naruto didn't care. He was content to have some notion of what family life was like. Naruto became aware of the implanted Sharingan while residing with Kakashi. This led to the two of them putting Kushina's theory about how to beat it to the test. Experiments showed that, at least with Kakashi's eye, the Sharingan's capacity to see chakra did supersede its capacity to replicate jutsu. Naruto managed to keep Kakashi from seeing the jutsu he was going to use by making a few small changes to her initial concepts. In essence, Naruto had to direct more chakra toward his hands rather than using it for the jutsu. The Sharingan wouldn't be able to see what was going on because of this. Kakashi did, however, caution Naruto that a real Uchiha might be able to overcome this weakness in some way because they would be more adept at controlling their Sharingan than he was. Naruto's clothing had changed significantly since the fire. His old orange jumpsuits were mostly burned. Since no one else would want them, he kept them even though he hadn't worn any of them in a while. Following his instructions, Sarutobi ordered multiple sets of shinobi clothes in Naruto's size. Without the vest, he appeared to be a chunin in his new, everyday attire. He still wanted some orange in his clothes, so the only orange he had left was in the 2 stripes on the inside of his sleeves. He was also persuaded by Sarutobi and Kakashi to purchase some formal and casual clothing for situations in which a combat uniform was not appropriate. Additionally, Naruto's time at the academy had somewhat improved. Although they were still terrible, his book grades were better than they had been. When Naruto moved in with Kakashi, they went up, and then again when Iruka took over as Naruto's regular teacher. It was evident that he had spent more time with Hinata. His presence still caused her to blush and faint, but now he had to try to get her to do it. He still unintentionally caused her to blush and faint, of course. Although it was still present, the stutter had significantly decreased. Despite the fact that she was quite adorable and that Naruto liked her quiet, and gentle nature, he was still unsure of his feelings for her. Hinata was enjoying the fact that her crush was genuinely interested in her, even though she was still unaware that she had confessed to Naruto. While everyone else in the class was wondering what had happened, Sakura appeared blissfully oblivious to Naruto's shift in focus. On the day of the Genin graduation exam, the kicker arrived. Naruto had passed every section of the test except the written exam. During the test's jutsu section, he had received a good laugh. It had been the infamous bunshin, which he was still unable to perform. But as a trump card, he had been able to conceal the fact that he was proficient in an advanced form of bunshin jutsu the entire time. Sasuke. Teme had begun insulting him as he was making his way down to take his turn. Naruto made 2 Tsuchi bunshin outside as payback, and they went into the academy, then into the classroom, and approached the Uchiha. One gave him a wedgie, the other held him down. The Uchiha was then covered in mud as both dispelled themselves. His classmates' responses were conflicting. The astonished silence was followed by a sharp increase in noise. Every girl in the room, except Hinata, wanted Naruto dead. Except for Sasuke. Teme, though, the other boys had started laughing. The other exception was Shino, though people seated close to him claimed to have heard him laugh. "I'm not worthy," Kiba chanted as she started to bow down to Naruto, laughing. Iruka and Mizuki had entered the classroom after hearing the commotion to find the Rookie of the Year smudged and staring at Naruto. When they discovered what had transpired, they inquired as to where he had acquired this kind of jutsu. Naruto merely responded that he had a tutor of his own. Iruka promptly passed Naruto on the jutsu portion, and gave Naruto his new Hide.8. Sasuke was sent home by Mizuki to change and take a shower. Mizuki later came up to Naruto as he was leaving and asked to have a private conversation with him. Mizuki informed them that Naruto would have to remain in the academy for an additional year due to his low written test score, even though he had passed the practical exams and received the headband. Unless he passed a particular makeup test, that is. Naruto was offended by the test, so he chose to speak with Kakashi instead of following Mizuki's advice to keep it to himself. The two of them visited the Hokage after Naruto's story. After that, Naruto told his story again to Sarutobi and Iruka, who Sarutobi had called to share some details about Naruto's exam results. Iruka claimed that Naruto would never have received a Hide.8 if his final score had not been sufficient to pass. Mizuki's reputation as a traitor was solidified by that declaration. Then, a scheme to catch Mizuki in the act was devised. The Forbidden Scroll would be given to Naruto, along with a secret seal that would destroy it if it were more than 20 feet away from Naruto. In the unlikely event that Mizuki knew what jutsu would be inside, it had to be the original. After that, everything would proceed as usual, with Iruka attempting to find Naruto and the Hokage warning all shinobi in action about the theft of the scroll. The primary distinction would be that the Sandaime would be observing from his crystal ball, and both Iruka and Kakashi would be fully aware of their destination. Everything had gone perfectly. Naruto showed up early and, following instructions, sat down to try to learn a jutsu from the scroll. He decided to learn Kage Bunshin tonight and hastily made notes on a few of the other jutsu on the list, disregarding those that were mentioned as requiring strong chakra control or being a part of some extremely intricate jutsu. After Mizuki arrived as scheduled, everything went horribly wrong. Mizuki escaped capture long enough to violate the law pertaining to Naruto, even though Iruka and Kakashi were present. Naruto was shocked to hear that. He understood the reason for his hatred and the reason behind all that had happened to him. The Sandaime, who had been observing the whole time, was extremely anxious, as were Iruka and Kakashi, who had managed to get hold of Mizuki. This was an important time for Naruto and the village as a whole. The outcome would determine whether Naruto became the demon the villagers believed him to be or rose above everything that had transpired. While Naruto's mind was racing, Mizuki struck Iruka in an attempt to free himself. Naruto was shaken out of his personal troubles by the cries of pain. When he realized what was happening, his eyes briefly flashed red before turning back to their typical blue. When Mizuki paused to gaze at the tiny army of clones that had been created, Naruto's roar of Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu caused him to instantly lose. Kakashi took advantage of the situation and completely defeated the traitor. The three ninja went into the Hokage's office for a debriefing they would not soon forget after handing Mizuki over to the Anbu at the Hokage Tower. To the surprise of the three older men, Naruto handled the Kyuubi revelation well better than they had anticipated. He had only inquired about the reason behind his selection. Sarutobi informed him that the sealing required a newborn, and Naruto was the only child born that day, using careful word choice to avoid disclosing to both Naruto and Iruka the other half of Naruto's ancestry. The village would have been destroyed if Naruto hadn't been used. Naruto reluctantly accepted what had been done, for the time being, after being presented with that logic. He was aware that complaining about what had already been done would not help him other than to vent, and it would only make him appear and sound like a child in front of three of the most significant individuals in his life. The meeting changed to a more conventional debriefing after he gave back the scroll. It was determined that this mission would receive an A rank rating, be recorded as a success in all 3 of their files, and come with a suitable reward. For Kakashi, Inu, an A rank mission was not out of the ordinary, but for Iruka, who had been teaching full time at the academy for the past few years, which typically caused one's skills to deteriorate, it would look very good. Given how uncommon it was for someone with so little combat experience to survive an A rank mission, let alone significantly contribute to its success, Naruto's reputation as a new shinobi could also be enhanced. A tap on Naruto's shoulder snapped him out of his reverie. The Hokage was sitting there, looking concerned, with Kakashi and a bandaged Iruka. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Why? Yeah. Sorry for worrying you guys. It's a lot to take in at once, you know? I understand. Why don't you go home and get some rest? I'm sure you could use it. Yeah, I guess so. But, Oji-san, I have a question. What is it? When I used Kage Bunshin, and the clones dispelled, I felt this weird rush in my head. It kind of hurt. What happened? Ah. Well, you see, Kage Bunshin is a multi-purpose jutsu. Used in training, the clones can work on chakra control and reserves, weapon skills, and jutsu, and when they dispel, you gain all the progress they made. The catch is, physical attributes, like stamina, can't be increased using this method. The original needs to do that personally. In combat, the clones have the ability to mold chakra and use jutsu. They just don't have the full extent of your reserves or control. It is also a useful scouting jutsu, because anything they learn is absorbed by you when they dispel. Your weird rush was you absorbing that information from all your clones. Oh. Naruto took a moment to comprehend the explanation and started drawing conclusions, and everyone is aware of what it is. So why don't you use them to help with your paperwork? Sarutobi blinked. The clones don't last very long, even if they aren't in a fight. It would work, but I would have to create a new one every few hours. Okay, but even if you only create one clone, and split your paperwork with it, you'd be done twice as fast, right? Sarutobi remained motionless for a brief moment. His eye then started to twitch, and at last he placed his head in his hands. I don't believe this. I've known that jutsu for over 40 years. I'm the professor of jutsu, and yet a 12-year-old genin, who hasn't even been out of the academy a full day, sees a use for it I've overlooked. I'm too old for this shit. A smile that threatened to tear his face apart appeared on Naruto's face. Hey Oji-san. Remember that promise you made me when you gave me my mom's clan scroll? I think I just held up my end of the deal. The Hokage laughed at that, then let out a full peal of laughter. That you did, Naruto-kun. That you did. Sarutobi looked at Kakashi and Iruka with, 2 years ago, I gave Naruto-kun his mother's clan scroll. During that, I told him, completely serious, that if he could find a way for me to defeat the seemingly invincible enemy known as paperwork, I would personally train him. Naruto-kun has held up his end of the deal, so I will hold up mine. Kakashi spoke for both of them because Iruka's jaw was on the ground. Hokage. Sama, no offense, but how could you promise something like that? Why not? If he found a way to do so, I would be free to train him. As it stands, I'll not only be able to do my job here and train Naruto, I can spend time with my family. I might even be able to sleep at night, for once. Now Iruka spoke up. Okay, Hokage. Sama, but with Naruto becoming your only student, that leaves us with an unbalanced number of students. Good point. Who would be the next in line to become a genin? A boy named Sai, Hokage. Sama. He joined the class about 2 weeks ago, so his grades are rather low in comparison. Odd. I don't remember giving permission for someone to join your class. I wouldn't have done it anyway, so close to the graduation exam, not without a valid reason. Well, tell him he passed. Yes sir, Hokage. Sama. Well then, I believe that about does it for now. If anything comes up, I'll let you know. Good night. Naruto had been Sarutobi's apprentice for 2 months. Naruto had taken some time to adjust to some of the Sandame's rules, such as referring to him as sensei rather than Oji-san. Even Sarutobi was finding it difficult to adjust to Naruto speaking to him in a polite manner. Because Sarutobi wanted Naruto to be rounded in as many facets of shinobi life as possible before specializing, Naruto's training was also rather unusual for any shinobi. Naruto had made the decision to learn how to fight with a variety of weapons in addition to the traditional ninja training, which included taijutsu and ninjutsu. In addition to kunai and shuriken, he was also learning how to wield kama, different kinds of swords, and the staff, which is Sarutobi's preferred weapon. Naruto had also perfected the Uzumaki whirlpool control exercise with Sarutobi's assistance, walking against the current for more than an hour. His ninjutsu practice was more typical of what one might anticipate from a typical training session. Before learning a new jutsu, Naruto would be shown one and required to prove that he was proficient in it. Additionally, Sarutobi had chosen to teach the jutsu in a predetermined cycle so that Naruto would learn jutsu from all 5 elements rather than just his affinities. His rotation was unique, though, as Naruto learned 2 or 3 jutsu from the other elements for each Raiden and Kaiden jutsu he acquired. Perhaps the most challenging thing for Sarutobi to teach was taijutsu training. Sarutobi was in good health, but he was just growing too old to teach taijutsu, especially to a young person with Naruto's level of energy. Explaining, demonstrating, having the student try, and then sparring was one of the best ways to teach taijutsu. If Sarutobi were to spar with Naruto, he would be too sore to move afterward, but he could manage the first 2 and the third would be no trouble. It appeared to be one of the few disadvantages of having just one pupil. Maeda Guy had offered him a position on his team, and he would have gladly accepted. Despite Guy's willingness to assist anyone who asked, Sarutobi and Naruto turned down the offer because they didn't want the situation to appear as though the Hokage was favoring his student. Rather, a deal was reached whereby Naruto would spar with Lee, Guy's pupil, every other day while both senseis watched. Guy would then provide feedback on their spar and help both genin work on their form. Although it wasn't flawless, it was still preferable to nothing. A friendly rivalry had formed between Naruto and Lee after roughly 3 of these sessions. In order to give him experience with a team mentality, Naruto would also accompany Guy's team on sporadic missions. The most challenging training Naruto would ever do had nothing to do with physical effort. Sarutobi was teaching him the responsibilities of a Hokage and the necessary skills, such as handling a budget and avoiding unintentionally upsetting a visiting dignitary. This implied that the majority of the lectures and lessons he had ignored in the academy had now returned to haunt him. Fortunately, Sarutobi outperformed the majority of the academy's teachers in those areas. Naruto quickly caught up to his proper level and added more lessons. Paperwork was no longer the unbeatable foe it once was due to the Kage Bunshin trick. Since Sarutobi created 2 Kage Bunshin to divide the remaining work with and Naruto handled the rubber stamp level paperwork, the majority of the day's work was completed in 2 or 3 hours, and anything else that came into the office during the day was also promptly handled. At last, Sarutobi noticed that the man who had been both his predecessor and successor had vandalized his desk, which was now routinely clear of debris. Both master and apprentice found the cartoon of a spiky haired man giving the nice guy pose, with the caption, "Namikaze Minato was here. Hilarious." The lessons on etiquette were quite taxing. Naruto was only kept there because he had realized by now how crucial they were. He couldn't remember how many times his sensei had handled someone coolly and then let out his frustrations in private. He could still clearly recall the first time he had witnessed it. The genin teams had just been assigned when it happened. Both teams, 8 and 10, had easily passed their second exams. As was customary with Kakashi as the potential sensei, Team 7 had failed. The catch was that Team 7's failure was to be disregarded, per the council's order. Almost everyone who had honestly passed their Junin sensei's test was disgusted by the council's obvious suckling of their prized Uchiha. In his argument against it, Sarutobi had emphasized how unfair it was to the other teams of those that had passed and those that had failed. That didn't help him at all. The pass from Team 7 was put to a vote and won. Then someone inquired as to whether the reports that Sarutobi had accepted a new pupil were accurate. Sarutobi verified them and named Naruto as the selected student. The council members who supported Sasuke were furious right away and argued that the Sandaime should take Sasuke as a student instead. Sarutobi silenced them with a 3-pronged argument. He began by stating that he was not required to accept a student. He wanted to teach Naruto, which is why he was doing this. Second, the council lacked the authority to mandate that a specific teacher be assigned to a given student. The Hokage had to make that determination. He concluded by pointing out that Sasuke was now bound to Team 7 after the council recently overturned Team 7's failure. After that meeting, Sarutobi used a soundproof barrier jutsu and locked the door before guiding Naruto into his office. He then started to rant, displaying a level of rage that Naruto had only witnessed in the man when he had been caught attempting to harm someone. "Never, ever give my new sensei a reason to get this mad at me," he prayed. Naruto's missions were unconventional, much like everything else in his ninja career to date. Naruto frequently had to run Sarutobi's errands as the Hokage's apprentice. Typically, this involved distributing official documents and messages throughout the village. These were chunin. Level tasks that were counted as missions and ranged from D to C rank. Since it was a requirement of his apprenticeship, he was not compensated for them. In order to get some pocket money, he frequently completed standard D rank missions as well. He had even caught Tora the cat by himself, and he was keeping the method a secret. Sarutobi having to handle village business outside of the office had been one of Naruto's favorite missions to date. There had to be someone present to distribute missions, but the business was crucial. Only a few D ranks for the genin were on the docket. Nothing dangerous. In the end, he chose to delegate the assignment to Naruto. He would give the teams their missions, and they would report back to him when they were finished. Well, Naruto-kun, do you think you can handle this? I think so, sensei. 4 D rank missions, with 4 genin teams coming in, shouldn't be too hard. Sarutobi left after saying, yes, that's why I'm not having someone else handle this, good luck. One of the 4 missions was literal, and the others were garden. Variety. Weeding was necessary in a villager's garden. The other 3 were painting the house, catching Tora the cat, and unloading and checking a shipment of new kunai for a nearby gun store. The teams arrived about 20 minutes later. Guy's team arrived first, then Asuma and Team 10, and finally Team 8. Team 7 showed up last, not due to Kakashi, but because 2 of his genin had gotten in an argument on the way over. Sakura needed to see a medic.nin because of something Sai had said to her. Why Naruto was sitting in the Hokage's chair was a mystery to all the genin. Sakura gave Naruto a long look before speaking. Naruto. Baka, what's going on? Where's Hokage? Sama. Sensei had to leave on village business. I'll be handing out missions to all of you today. Kiba raised her voice. So, you're getting a taste of your dream job, huh? What's it like? Those in attendance with a sense of humor laughed when he said, I like it. It comes with a comfy chair. Then he enumerated the day's 4 missions. Naruto asked, what do you think you're doing, Uchiha? As Sasuke approached and reached for one of the scrolls. Taking a scroll, Dobi, what does it look like? You don't just take a mission, it's assigned to you. You should know that by now. Sasuke was furious. Was he being called a fool by the Dobi? What a jerk he is, his fist clenched. Why Ada? The words, Sasuke. Stop that. Were spoken by Kakashi. He's right. Until Hokage. Sama returns. Naruto outranks you, at least for this. You would never have done that if Sandame Sama were here, would you? He outranks me. He's a genin too. Hokage. Sama put him in charge of assigning us our missions. That puts him higher up in the chain of command. It also means that when the missions are done, we will report to Naruto as well. Sasuke was quiet after that. Naruto was aware that he would never offer him an apology. Well, since that's settled, on with the missions. Usual system, first come, first served. Guy. Sensei, which one do you want? Guy knew better than to take anything other than the mission inspecting new kunai while Tenten was present. Team 7 was left searching for a cat, while Team 8 went to the garden and Team 10 went to paint a house. Naruto's life was going well. In addition to being trained to become a Hokage with real world experience, he had become a shinobi and had the opportunity to spend time with one of the few individuals he regarded as family. How could things improve? He didn't know. Naruto lived with Kakashi and spent every day in the Sandame's office, so he had a decent idea of how his fellow classmates were doing. Every time the 3 genin teams arrived to receive a mission for the day, he saw them. He was aware that Team 7 was still experiencing problems. After failing their first test and having it overturned, they had not improved. At this point, they had completed twice as many missions as was necessary to earn a C-rank mission, but Kakashi continued to take D ranks in an effort to foster teamwork. They wouldn't receive a C rank until after the upcoming chunin exams if it continued. Sasuke. Tem was still a stuck up, brooding jerk, but he was now a stuck up, angry jerk. He believed that because he wasn't being trained by the most skilled ninja in the village, the Dobi was being held back. Sakura had remained the same in every way: personality, training, etc. Naruto was left wondering what he had ever seen in her. Sai. He seemed strange for some reason. That smile just creeped him out. Team 10 did slightly better, but not significantly. They were adept at working as a team, but they were hindered by their distinct, non-existent, training style. They were therefore unlikely to be considered for the majority of low C-rank missions anytime soon. However, it appeared that Team 8 was the best group in Naruto's class. They possessed the teamwork that Team 7 required and the drive that Team 10 lacked. Additionally, they were deemed prepared for their first C rank by Kurenai and the Hokage today. A list of the available C ranks was what they were waiting for in the office. Sarutobi glanced at the list and noticed Naruto sitting there, observing the proceedings. There are several options for a team with your abilities. Let's see. Well, I promised to do this when he was ready, and he is definitely ready now. Kurenai, before I give you the mission, I have a favor to ask. Naruto.kun needs some field experience. Since I can't leave the village, would it be alright if he joined your team for this? That caught Naruto and Kurenai off guard. They hadn't even discussed a field mission for him yet, which surprised Naruto. What was the elderly man up to? I have no problems with that, Hokage. Sama, he is welcome to join us. Good. Here's your mission. There was once a shinobi clan in a small, coastal country. About 18 years ago, the clan was decimated in some territory dispute. Their clan library is supposedly untouched, and as it happens, the last known member of that clan is currently a Konoha ninja. Your mission is to locate the library, and if it is still intact, retrieve everything you can, storing it in this scroll. Sarutobi gave Kurenai a heavy-duty storage scroll. Are there any questions? I have two, Hokage. Sama, where are we headed? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you, it's Uzu no Kuni. And the clan name? The Uzumaki clan. The four members of Team 8 turned to face the pale Naruto at that point. Sensei, are you serious? Of course I am. I told you I would send you when you were ready. Now, are there any more questions? One more. How dangerous is this mission? Well, Uzu no Kuni has rebuilt itself. While they no longer have a shinobi force, it is rather peaceful, according to the most recent reports. I doubt anyone else will be trying to locate the library as well, as it is protected in the same fashion most clan libraries are. Beyond that, I cannot be sure. Kurenai turned to face the four genin and said, meet up at the main gate tomorrow at 7 sharp, with all supplies. We may not see combat, but I want you to prepare for it anyway. Very well. We'll leave tomorrow morning, she said. Together, the four said, Hi, Kurenai, sensei. Shino said, I have a question for Naruto. Were you aware of this? I've known about the Uzumaki clan and their library for a little over 2 years now. I didn't know that Sensei was going to give out this mission yet, to myself or have another team come with me. I see. Am I correct in assuming the jutsu you performed at the assessment 2 years ago is a clan technique, not one you created? Yeah. I've only got a small part of what the library supposedly has inside. My clan did a lot of stuff, so there should be a bunch of information on all kinds of topics, not just ninja or clan. Only things. Kiba now entered the discussion. So there's stuff there that could benefit the entire village? Cool. Alright you three, let's go. You can talk more tomorrow. Good day, Hokage. Sama, Naruto. Kurenai then walked Team 8 out of the office. Sarutobi looked over at Naruto. Naruto.kun, I'm giving you the rest of the day off to prepare for the mission. Alright sensei. So, what are you going to do while I'm gone? I plan on helping Konohamaru with his training. He's been doing much better lately, and I know it's because of you. Because of that, Naruto smiled. Konohamaru had rushed into Sarutobi's office with a wooden ninja tool in hand and declared his intention to kill the elderly man shortly after he had formally begun studying under him. He took 2 steps, but his foot got caught in his scarf and he fell flat on his face. He quickly got up and pointed the finger at Naruto, who had been 2 feet away the whole time. Drawing inspiration from Sakura's book, Naruto struck him over the head. Next, Ebisu, Konohamaru's teacher, rushed in. Naruto left to vent after a rather grating conversation. After that, Ebisu left to locate his charge, who had trailed Naruto from the tower. When Konohamaru caught up with Naruto and explained himself, Naruto felt compelled to do something. Naruto decided to teach Konohamaru a skill that he probably wouldn't learn until he became a genin after correcting him about why he should aspire to be Hokage. He might learn it at the academy, of course, with their new curriculum. Naruto then demonstrated the tree climbing exercise for him. He did fairly well for 8 years old. Although he didn't have enough chakra to finish the exercise, he still had enough to please them both. Astonished, Ebisu, who had been observing from the trees, fell from the tree and was knocked unconscious. While the two dragged the Tokubetsu Junin back into town, they declared themselves rivals. Later, Konohamaru's performance with Ebisu was notably better. Even so, the two continued to meet up when they had free time. Typically, they would merely converse and practice target practice while sitting in a training area. Before long, Naruto was assuming the role of Konohamaru's older brother. He cherished it. With the exception of Ayame at Ichiraku, he had only male role models in his life, which was the only issue he saw with his family. However, that might change in the future. Alright, I'll see you when I get back then. Bye, and thanks for this, sensei. My pleasure. About 6 hours had passed since the 5 shinobi left. The 3 Team 8 members took advantage of their lunch break to ask their classmate about his clan. Since a ninja had to have secrets, Naruto made some changes to the information he provided. He didn't elaborate on his own skills or refer to the notes on the advantages and disadvantages of their clans. This conversation might have had the greatest impact if it had focused on Shino. Naruto concluded by outlining the Uzumaki perspective on an excessive dependence on clan tactics and Kekkei Genkai. While your argument is logical, it is not so easy for an Aburame to add to their arsenal of abilities. Our relationship with the Kekkei requires that they constantly feed on our chakra when not in battle, limiting the extent to which we can improve. Fair enough. But what about taijutsu? Or kenjutsu? Maybe even some fuinjutsu? Most of those techniques don't require much chakra. You could try those. That may work. I will think on it. That's all I ask. It was a new experience to train with Team 8 on the road. Naruto had never really trained with other genin, except for the time guy. Sensei worked with him and Lee simultaneously. The teamwork exercises were well constructed, but Kurenai Sensei really couldn't teach him much of her specialty. He was half decent at it because he had the necessary imagination and sufficient self-control. He simply lacked the mindset required for it, and he frequently ignored details. Generally speaking, he was not a fan of genjutsu's subtlety. But he did pick up new techniques for identifying and countering genjutsu. Naruto had also learned more about his mother from Kurenai. Kurenai was well aware of Kushina's reputation even though she had not met her personally. Naruto discovered that, second only to Tsunade, his mother had been an excellent kunoichi and an example of what a kunoichi ought to be. When Kushina visited Konoha, Kurenai had only been in the academy for a little more than a year. Kurenai hoped she would have the opportunity to train with one of her role models, who was now in Konoha. She most likely never got this close to being a fangirl. The fact that she never had the opportunity was one of her greatest regrets. If you were to walk all the way from Konoha, Uzu no Kuni was about a week and a half away, or 2 or 3 weeks. Keeping well supplied wasn't an issue because the roads were kept up and the villages were only a day's walk apart. Although there was no time limit on the mission's duration, they agreed that they would not remain in the towns for longer than absolutely necessary. They would camp at night as well. Naruto concluded during this trip that Hinata ought to have been the top kunoichi. Yes, Sakura received excellent book grades. Well done. She would never have tolerated camping out with Ino. After roughly 3 days of travel, they set up camp for the night. Hinata would shortly relieve Naruto, who was on watch duty at the moment. He was clueless about tonight's events. Naruto.kun, I'm here to take over for you. Okay, see you tomorrow then, Hinata-chan. Hinata, you can succeed, come on, tell him, please. Naruto.kun, there's something I want to tell you. I've been in L. Naruto cut in, I know, Hinata-chan, then. Hinata was about to pass out, but she forced herself to stop herself. Why you do? How could you know? How he knew had to be revealed to her. You told me. Naruto went on at Hinata's expression, which was a mix of shock and inquiry. Remember the day we were told about the assessment? You had fainted the second time, and Iruka led the rest of the class out to the training field. I was making sure you were okay, when you reached out and grabbed me. Then, you hugged me to you and said you loved me. With her face flushed, Hinata squeaked, I'm so embarrassed. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Sure, I freaked out a little. I mean, someone I didn't know very well said they loved me, even if they didn't know they had told me. But, after I calmed down a little, I decided that if you thought you loved me, the least I could do was get to know you better. Is that why you started spending so much time around M.Me? Yep. And what did you decide? I decided that I like you, Hinata. You're sweet, gentle, and just fun to be around. You are also probably the best kunoichi in our class, skill-wise. You could probably have beaten Ino for practical ability, and Sakura for grades, if you had a more assertive attitude, but that's okay. I don't know if I love you or not, though. But give me time, I might find out that I do love you. Alright, Naruto.kun. Good night. Okay, night Hinata-chan. I don't think so. He wasn't scared off because he knew how I felt for him all along. He also made the decision that he wanted to learn more about me. I might be able to convince him yet. Hinata was not competitive at all. She would have left Sakura and Ino behind at the academy if she had been. Nevertheless, she couldn't help but congratulate herself, at least to herself, that she was getting closer to winning Naruto's love by simply being herself. Although he hadn't declared his love for her, he had acknowledged her skills and hinted that he might in the future. You both believe that I would never be able to win Naruto's love because I was too shy to approach him, Sakura and Ino. I am now further along with Sasuke-san than either of you are, in your faces. That thought caused Hinata's face to split into the typical Naruto grin, which remained there for the duration of her shift. The five-person group arrived at the Uzu no Kuni border after a week of travel. A small village was situated just across the border, close to a crossroads where trade caravans would typically spend the night. They would be collecting data regarding the Uzumaki library's location. They discovered helpful information even though none of them could learn about the library. In Uzu no Kuni, the Uzumaki clan continued to enjoy great respect. Anyone who disparaged them would quickly find themselves in serious trouble, since directly inquiring about the Uzumaki clan was viewed with suspicion, particularly if the asker was a shinobi. It was a useful lesson in information gathering. It seems that shinobi from all over the world have been trying to locate their library and steal it for their own villages ever since the clan was destroyed. Many people still thought that there was an Uzumaki somewhere, even though there had been no news of the clan. If only they were aware of their correctness. Naruto made the decision to conceal his family name for as long as necessary. Naruto was unsure of what would be considered proof, so if word got out that someone was attempting to use the Uzumaki name, it would only make the mission more difficult. The seals on his back might be functional to someone who had known an Uzumaki firsthand, but it's likely that most people would only notice that most Uzumaki had a matching set and not understand their significance. The most significant fact they learned was that many of the original families who had resided in the village close to their clan home for many generations were still there. A lead had just come to them. Team 8 and Naruto set out with their new destination, continuing toward the coast and deeper into Uzu no Kuni. When they arrived in the village the following day, they took a look around. If one knew what to look for, the old damage was still present in the village, which had rebuilt itself. The villagers nearly ordered the group to disperse when they saw their Hite.8. They stopped upon seeing the Konoha leaf emblem. Apparently, everyone in the village was aware of the arrangement that had brought Kushina to Konoha and was prepared to give them an opportunity to clarify their position. As word got out, the village chief soon arrived to greet the group. Konoha Shinobi, welcome. Might I ask what brings you here? Kurenai raised her voice. Greetings. The five of us were sent here by the Hokage, on a mission regarding the Uzumaki clan library, I presume, the man added, receiving Kurenai's startled nod. Yes, well. The other four major villages that clan members were sent to have also come at some point in time, with the same intent. They failed to find it. We are also aware that Kushina has been dead for 12 years now. Unless you can give a reason as to why we should allow you to stay, we must ask you to leave. I believe I have such a reason. You know she died, but do you know how she died? As we understand it, one of the 9 Biju attacked, and she died as a result. That is only part of it. She did die when the Kyuubi attacked, but she died because she went into premature labor, due to the stress caused by the attack. Everyone in the village gasped at that. Wait, premature labor? She was pregnant? Then, the child? Yes. She died, but her child, her son, lived, and lives in Konoha to this day. We have come to retrieve the library for him. The villagers were stunned by the dead silence. That would be a very good reason, but it means nothing unless you can prove it. I can do that. Naruto, if you would. Naruto took a step forward. He couldn't recall being this anxious in the past. Hi, I'm Uzumaki Naruto, the son of Uzumaki Kushina. The people around them let out another gasp. A few of them fell, their legs failing to hold them up. Kushina's son couldn't be this boy, could he? An elderly villager stepped up to speak. I lived most of my life working closely with the Uzumaki clan. If you really are Kushina's son and an Uzumaki, you would have special marks. Do you have them? Do you mean these? Naruto asked, taking off his shirt and turning away from the woman. Then she leaned down to examine the seals on his back. Well now, you are an Uzumaki, I'm glad to say. The crowd just stared, the older people there with tears in their eyes. After all, the Uzumaki clan was still alive. It survived. The leader raised his voice again. Well then, in light of this terrific news, feel free to stay as long as you need. I'll arrange for the 5 of you to stay at the Uzumaki clan house while you complete your mission. Thank you. It would be an honor. Alright, this way, please. Naruto was unable to sleep. His depression was too great. Before he had moved in with Kakashi, he had already felt more at home in the village than he had in Konoha after less than a day. They had divided up to find out the location and details of the library when they got to the Uzumaki clan house. Naruto discovered a family photo album while searching a bookcase. When he opened it to a random page, he was confronted with images of his mother. His scroll had contained a few pictures, but they had all been portraits. These were pictures of the family. One was taken with her family present after she made genin. She was seen receiving a chunin vest in a second. After being promoted to junin, she was shown by yet another. Naruto went back to the album's opening and began searching. After a while, he had to make himself put the album back. It hurt too much. The Uzumaki were close, knit, as the photos had demonstrated. His mom's family seemed like wonderful people, but he would never have met any of them. He would have been content here. He did observe that there was an island in the background of a lot of the pictures. It was encircled by tall cliffs and had a building on it. There was a huge whirlpool protecting the only way out. One that was far, far bigger than anything that could possibly happen in nature. The return of an Uzumaki had been celebrated with a massive town feast. He appeared to be receiving the same treatment as Sasuke Teme in Konoha. Although he didn't believe he deserved it, he enjoyed the flattering attention. A villager approached him after noticing his uneasiness. After reminding Naruto that everyone in this place was aware of the Uzumaki clan's feelings regarding such matters, he went on to explain their motivation. The villagers and the entire Uzu no Kuni were very close to the Uzumaki clan. Almost everyone had been their friend. The villagers' celebration of the clan as a whole and gratitude that the Uzumaki backup plan had succeeded was the purpose of the feast, not him. In a way, it was a wake honoring a group of people who were adored in the nation. Naruto was able to have a little more fun after that realization. Naruto lay down and gazed at the ceiling, unsure of what to do. He had never been here before, but all of a sudden it felt like home. He had an obligation to Konoha, but he didn't want to give it up easily. What am I going to do, man? This is awful. Although I feel comfortable here, I can't live here if I want to be Hokage. I recently acquired a typical home, and now I have another one. After his eyes widened, Naruto gave himself a forehead slap. A second home. It's unbelievable that I didn't come up with this earlier. Shinobi even go on vacation. I can take vacations here. Gee, we could come down here too if I ever have a family. Perhaps my children or grandchildren will make this their permanent home. At least not to this extent. Naruto had never given having a family of his own much thought. His mother's scroll had been the last time he had given it any serious thought. He had blacked out, of course, but he had been younger, and it was a bit too much for him to hear about getting married and starting a family. He decided to get some fresh air, so he got out of bed and went to the door leading to the balcony that encircled the second floor. He thought he would be alone, but instead he found Hinata sitting there and watching the stars, doing what he had planned to do himself. Hey Hinata-chan. Why are you out here? Naruto.kun. Hello. I needed to think and this seemed to be a good place for it. Oh. I see. Mind if I join you? Certainly. Naruto then sat down beside her. Thanks. So, what did you need to think about? Or is it a private thing? No, it's all right. I'm just overwhelmed. Tell me about it. That's why I'm out here. What do you mean? We've been here less than a day, and yet I already feel as though this place is my home. It's a nice feeling, one I never really had in Konoha, not until Sensei found me a guardian. So what's the problem? I'm treated the way Sasuke is back in Konoha, and I don't like it. I've done nothing for these people, but they treat me like I'm a hero, like the Teme is back home. I don't think so. The Uchiha clan was treated like that in Konoha because of the Sharingan. No one has a feast like that for them because although they were respected and feared, they weren't liked. They were considered rather cold in their dealings with people, viewing just about everyone else as being beneath them, much like my clan, Unfortunately, they demanded the respect. Your clan, however, were apparently very friendly and dependable people. They earned the respect they got, and while you're being given that respect, it is only until you show that you aren't worthy of it. I would prefer it if my clan would do the same, sometimes. Huh. Thanks, Hinata. I feel a little bit better about this now. So, why are you feeling overwhelmed? It's the first time I haven't been given special treatment because of who I am or what clan I'm from. Inside the village, I'm Hyuga Hinata, clan heiress. To my clan, I'm a D. Disappointment. Out here, I'm just a Konoha kunoichi. A dot in my reputation is what I wish to make of it. It's a liberating experience, but a little much to take in at once. Yeah, that's true. Well, I think we better call it a night. Don't want Kurenai Sensei to get mad at us because we keep falling asleep during the day. Alright, Naruto.kun. Naruto decided to try something new and reached over to embrace Hinata. Naruto knew it was the right thing to do as soon as he did that. Hinata was very friendly. Without a doubt, this would have been the top choice if someone had asked Naruto to name the best choices he had ever made in his life. Hinata didn't know what was happening. She had been unexpectedly embraced by her now public crush. Although her face was still sufficiently red that she believed she would soon begin to glow, it felt fantastic. The abrupt end of the hug made her both happy and sad. She was both relieved that she most likely wouldn't pass out in front of Naruto and sad that the embrace would not end. Well, good night, Hinata.cha. MMPH. Unusually for Hinata, she followed her instincts and took Naruto by the collar, bringing him close for a kiss. Though his hands were moving on their own and were currently heading to Hinata's hips, Naruto was frozen and hardly noticed. What the devil is happening? Kami. Hinata is kissing me, but why? Additionally, she tastes like strawberries, you know, this is rather pleasant. They separated for air a few seconds later. As soon as Hinata realized what she had done, she squeaked and fled. Still in shock, Naruto turned around and went back to his room without saying anything. In his current state, though, he forgot to open the door first, and walked into it, shaking him out of his trance. Opening the door, he muttered just loud enough to be heard by Hinata, who was hidden nearby, "Man, now I'm definitely not going to get to sleep." She would have been performing a victory dance right now, screaming that Naruto was almost theirs, if she had an inner Hinata. A Naruto smile appeared on Hinata's face for the second time since they had departed. And Hyuga pulls out even further ahead of Haruno and Yamanaka in the race for love. I just need to watch what I do next because I've almost won. Two of the 5 shinobi in particular had an unusual morning the following day. It was accurate to say that Naruto appeared to have had no sleep at all. Hinata was behaving more bashful than she had in a long time, before Naruto had begun to take notice of her. Additionally, she was finding it difficult to look toward Naruto without squeaking and turning away. Naruto and Hinata were silent, but the other 3 were perplexed about his. They turned their attention to their mission's goal and started talking about any hints that might have been discovered the previous day regarding the location of the library. There were no ideas. Kurenai then went on to teach them how to learn from things rather than from people. She informed them that most people would leave hints to the location, whether on purpose or not, rather than explicitly naming it when dealing with significant secrets, such as clan libraries. She then inquired as to whether they had found several references to a particular place in any of their searches. While Hinata, Kiba, and Shino failed to think of anything, Naruto sat and pondered for a moment. He felt a little embarrassed. While he had been searching through photo albums, the others had been working toward the mission's objective. He allowed himself to forget his purpose in order to sit and gaze at pictures because they were dealing with his family. Hold on a second. Pictures. The island in the distance. He then went on to tell them about the island. They would explore the island since they had nothing else to work with. They would go back and search once more if they found nothing. Naruto made a self-promise to never let it happen again after realizing how fortunate he had been with the photos. He needed to start behaving like the professional he aspired to be. When he was off duty, he was free to do as he pleased as long as it was reasonable, but when he was on a mission, he had higher standards for himself. They started asking around after breakfast to find out where that island was. They didn't have to conceal their mission because the villagers were more than happy to assist, and they quickly succeeded in reducing the area to one that could be thoroughly searched in a few hours. The most significant hint was a dock in the background of the photos, despite the peculiar characteristics of the island and whirlpool. In order to get a picture of the island and the mainland dock together, only 2 or 3 islands were close enough to the mainland. Even adjusting for time, the first 2 islands hadn't matched the picture. Naruto hoped the 3rd island would be the correct one. He would certainly not mind staying longer, but he wanted to complete the task before having fun. Prioritize business over pleasure, etc. Please, oh please, let this be the right place, Naruto pleaded with whichever higher power was paying attention. The island appeared before them abruptly. Between the time the photos were taken and now, very little had changed. The island was somewhat overrun by vegetation, and the dock's wooden planks were rotten, but that was to be expected after almost 20 years without maintenance. They discovered a sealed cave nearby. When they opened it, they discovered that it had been transformed into a storage area with rowboats and associated gear in excellent shape. After examining the boats, they selected one that would be the least uncomfortable for all 5 and Akamaru. Together, the 5 shinobi loaded their supplies into the boat and dragged it to the edge of the water. Shino decided to ask a question that had been bothering him ever since he saw the island in the picture. How are we supposed to cross the whirlpool in front of the landing site? It is too large and powerful for us to navigate around safely, and there is no other way for us to access the island. Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, Shino, I can take care of that, then. Kiba gave Naruto a curious glance. How can you do that? We don't know anything about this island other than your clan took a lot of pictures here. My clan developed a bunch of special chakra control exercises. One of them is moving on top of a whirlpool without getting sucked under. Wait, what? Is that even possible? Shino said it again. Interesting. Using a chakra control exercise as a barrier on a clan library. I don't believe anyone else has even thought of such a thing, assuming the library is on the island. To get their attention, Kurenai cleared her throat. Well, there's one way to find out. Let's go. Kiba was irritated and said, Hey, why'd we get stuck rowing? His arms now felt like they were on fire, and he and Shino had been instructed to row the boat. Replied that, we needed 2 people to row so that everyone could fit in the boat, otherwise I could have done it. We need Naruto to channel the chakra to get us past the whirlpool, so he can't row. Hinata could have rowed, but it works best if both people have close to the same upper body strength. Now suck it up, we're almost there. The boat arrived at the whirlpool's outer edge as soon as she was done. Naruto started directing chakra into the boat right away. It was more difficult because he was nervous and this was something he had never done before, even though he knew he could do it correctly by himself. The boat swayed slightly, nearly toppling over, but it didn't go any farther. As they attempted to avoid falling out, Kurenai, Hinata, and Akamaru held down the supplies they had brought. In an effort to get them out, Kiba and Shino paddled as hard as they could. Suddenly, they found themselves on the opposite side of the vortex, moving in the direction of the island dock. Instead of relying on the dock, which was just as rotten as the boat itself, they chose to pull the boat out of the water when they landed. After directing enough chakra to cover the boat, Naruto was worn out. He nearly missed the praise that was aimed at him. That was really good, Naruto. Way to go, Naruto.kun. Most impressive. With a bark of approval, Akamaru accentuated Kiba's statement, that was so cool, if it hadn't been for the boat tilting, you wouldn't have known that we were in a whirlpool. It felt like we were rowing through calm water. Thanks, everyone. I just want some time to recover before I need to do it again. You should have enough time. If you're ready, let's check out this island. Shino pushed up his shades. One question, Kurenai. Sensei. The whirlpool, how can it exist? The currents here could not form and sustain a whirlpool at all, let alone one of that size. Logically, it should not exist, as it defies all known natural laws. Shino, I think I know. I told all of you that what we did to cross it was a chakra control exercise specially developed for my clan, right? Well, in order for me to learn it, I needed access to a stable whirlpool of a certain size and power, and those don't occur in Konoha. There is a jutsu that creates a whirlpool much like that one, which is how you perform it inland. I just don't know what could be powering it, though. Perhaps we will find the answer at our destination. Let's go. For an hour and a half, they had been strolling through the island, taking in the scenery. Anyone who knew what to look for could see that there had once been trimmed paths here, despite the overgrowth, indicating that this island had once held significance for someone. After all, if nobody could get out here, why construct a dock and clear pathways? And it appeared that only an Uzumaki could escape here because of the whirlpool in the way. When they arrived at the spot where the building was shown in the photo, it was there. As it happened, it was not a building at all, but rather an outstretched portion of the surrounding rock, resembling an exposed tunnel mouth. It was most likely made with a dojutsu, but someone had colored it with some substance to make it appear as though it had been built there. They discovered that the door led underground and that the interior was lined with masonry. Using flashlights they had brought, they descended farther and located the whirlpool's origin. Powered by multiple chakra seals, it was the chakra control whirlpool jutsu. The whirlpool's jutsu would expire in roughly 15 years if they weren't renewed. This initially gave the genin the assurance that this was the library, but Kurenai warned them that everything might be a complex ruse. At last they were standing before a metal door. There were no hinges, no keyholes, and no obvious means of opening it without running the risk of everything falling on top of them. In search of something that would open the door, Hinata turned on her Byakugan. Anyo, There's a room on the other side of the door. A big one. I can't see what's in the room though. Is there anything that could open the door? Wait. I see some seals above the door. There are words in them. Let's see. Ice, fire, sorrow, hatred, forgetfulness, and memory. What do they mean? Weird. Hey Naruto, any ideas? Yeah. I know what they are. They're markers for some of our clan techniques. I don't know what they could be for, though. Replied, often, clan libraries will include a special protection seal that requires the performance of a clan technique to open. Why don't you try one? Alright. Everyone stand back. Uzumaki Hajutsu. Yomi no Oikawa. Phlegathon. The stream of fire erupted from Naruto's grasp. Yet the flaming water rose above their heads, twisting into the character for fire, rather than striking the ground and burning. The door started sliding out of the way right away. Kiba used the occasion to make a joke. Hey, that sure gives a new meaning to firewater, but seriously, does that count as a Suiden or Kaden jutsu? It's really a Suiden, but it could pass for Kaden. Oh, hey, why didn't you use any hand seals for it? Now that I think about it, you didn't use any back at the assessment either, when you did the ice one. What's up with that? On my back, between my shoulder blades, are special seals, probably the same ones Hinata Chan saw above the door. They're proof that I am a member of the Uzumaki clan, and allow me to perform some of my clan techniques without hand seals. So that's why you took your shirt off for that old woman. So there are 4 other jutsu, for the other 4 seals. Yeah. Kurenai cut the discussion short. Enough. Let's see what is in the room. With an eye out for any potential trap, they stepped into the room. They discovered a large room with a disguised skylight letting in some light. Though not enough to see anything in great detail, there was enough light to see where things were. Hinata found and activated a light switch. Light fixtures were powered by additional chakra seals, and as the room became brighter, bookcases filled with scrolls were revealed. Kiba's mouth fell open. Holy crap. This is as big as the general library back in Konoha. Yeah, tell me about it. Hey, there's a sign over there. Naruto approached a placard that was affixed to the wall. He was saying, the original documents here cannot leave this library except in the case of the imminent destruction of the library. If you must remove a scroll, please take one of the copy scrolls in the bookcase in the corner. Everyone in the room, including Shino, started to perspire as they looked into the corner. Like the one they had been given before they left, there were 2 bookcases in the corner filled with sturdy storage scrolls. It has a complete copy of every scroll here. Already sealed in. Hinata said, opening one up. Kurenai's eyebrow went up. You're kidding. The Uzumaki clan completed one of our mission objectives for us? Kiba got involved. Damn, they're good. So, do we pack up and head for home, or spend some time looking through this stuff? Naruto raised his voice. I'd like to stay here a little bit. I still haven't completely recovered from crossing the whirlpool. I'd like to be at my best when we make the return trip. You're the only one who can get us back across, so I guess we're staying a bit. Naruto approached the bookcase and took out a second scroll. After blinking, Hinata said, Naruto.kun. Why did you get a second scroll? We already have one. I know, but the way I see it, this way, I'll have one copy, and the other will go into the archives in the Hokage Tower. I might like Uzu no Kuni, but I would rather not make unnecessary trips here if I can avoid it. Plus, maybe Sensei and I can go through the contents, and see if any of it could benefit the village. Depending on what we decide, copies can be made for the general library in Konoha. The group dispersed after they agreed to the explanation. Shino strolled around, examining the different topics covered in the scrolls. He discovered a scroll on insects of the elemental countries in a section on plant and animal life, took it out, and started reading. Hinata had located the section on medications and therapeutic methods. Unable to resist, she began perusing it in search of methods to better herself. As befitted her specialty, Kurenai made her way to the genjutsu area first. The inclusion of several genjutsu that had long been believed to be lost shocked her even more than the selection itself. A scroll for the original technique had either been found by one of Naruto's ancestors, or it had been skillfully recreated so that only a true master could distinguish between the two. In a hurry, she asked Naruto if the copy scrolls had contained them. The 4 genin stared at her incredulously as he gave her a positive response, and her squeal of delight reverberated throughout the library. She blushed and took a moment to excuse herself. The ninjutsu section had been Naruto's first stop. Similar to Kurenai, he discovered a number of mythical jutsu. The mental image made him smile because he knew the Sandaime would be foaming at the mouth when he saw them. That soon changed when he began to look at the section on Kenjutsu and saw something that made him want to cry while sitting in a corner. Naruto had been beaten to the creation of the Oroku no Jutsu by one of his relatives, his grandfather, no less. The name, the description, the hand seals. Since the same name appeared on the scroll as the author and he had recognized the name from the photo album, he was certain it had been his grandfather. As Naruto read the scroll, he discovered that his grandfather had developed the jutsu when he was 8 years old, and for the same motivations as Naruto. The responses it received were hilarious. Like the Sandane when he had first succumbed to it, it had been called a Kenjutsu shortly after it had been created. Around the same age, Naruto had developed the jutsu, but he had forgotten about it after obtaining his mother's scroll. Prior to that, he had used it often, but now he was unable to recall the last time he had done so. By now, he was aware that its primary function was to identify perverts, and that it was immature and of little use beyond generating amusement at the expense of his targets. Nevertheless, it was his first and only original jutsu, and he was proud of it. That wasn't even the case now. When I eventually have access to Dad's library, I almost wonder what I'll discover there. I believe that I will cry if he uses a similar jutsu. He and Kiba were now glancing around, astonished by the variety of subjects covered. Botany, Kenjutsu, agriculture, architecture, metallurgy, sculpting. Was there anything your clan didn't do? Sit around and be lazy, it seems. Wait, I stand corrected. Here's one called A Guide to Cloud Watching. Shikamaru will be thrilled. Kiba snorted and saw a door behind them. Hey, what do you think is behind this? They all gathered around it. Naruto opened it since no one was spotting traps. It had no additional scrolls, but it was roughly the same size as the main room. There was a typical armory on one side of the room, complete with armor, weapons, and other equipment that was antiquated but still in working order. Storage was on the opposite side. Everything valuable, including jewelry and furniture, was carefully covered and stacked. There was a solid steel door at the back of this room. It led to the clan treasury, Kurenai surmised. Well, Naruto, it turns out we don't need this storage scroll from the Hokage, thanks to your clan's foresight. Anything you want to take with us? Just one thing, Kurenai. Sensei, but I won't need a storage scroll. Naruto picked up a dust-covered Hite.8 as he made his way to the armory's armory section. He showed it to the group after wiping it off. The Uzumaki crest served as the symbol, but it was a typical Hite.8. The cloth's no good, but I can replace that later. Let's go. The group started packing and heading home 2 days later. Despite the villagers' objections, Naruto assured them he would return. When Naruto fixed the Uzumaki Hite.8 plate next to his Konoha 1, the gathered crowd almost started crying. A rabbit ran through the campsite that night as they were pitching their tent in a grove of trees. After catching it, Hinata brought it to the group. This rabbit still has its full winter coat. He should have started losing it by now. This is someone's pet, Kurenai said, examining it. The rabbit bounded out of Hinata's arms as soon as she said it. Then Kurenai yelled, "Get down." The genin ducked just in time to prevent their head from being severed. An enormous sword swung through the air and lodged itself in a tree. Out of nowhere, a man came and drew the sword from the tree. He was recognized by Kurenai as Momochi Zabuza, Demon of the Mist. The one and only. So tell me, what's a high-profile missing nin such as yourself doing attacking 4 genin and a junin? It's obvious, really. As a missing nin, I can't exactly go into a town and resupply. So, I have to get food and equipment from somewhere. You lot just happened to cross my path. Too bad we aren't going down without a fight, Kiba snarled. Guess again. Haku, now. Their arms and legs were suddenly encircled by freezing water that turned to ice. All of them were pinned. Hands clasped in a seal, a figure about the genin's height leapt from a tree. Zabuza said, "Now then, you can either surrender everything you've got and live, or do something stupid and die." Kurenai's eyebrows arched. Interesting. Your mission history and bingo book profile show you as someone who wouldn't think twice about killing. Why give us a choice? That's true. In true combat, I wouldn't hesitate to kill all of you. However, I have enough work cut out for me avoiding the Kiri Hunter.nin. I don't want Konoha or any of the other villages actively pursuing me unless it's absolutely necessary. So I'm giving you the chance to live. Consider yourselves lucky. In an attempt to escape, Kiba and Akamaru were both fighting against the ice. Fat chance. Soon as we break free, you're as good as dead. The masked figure, who was presumably Haku, spoke quietly. I wish you wouldn't say such things. Neither of us have any desire to harm you. Once we have what we came for, we will leave, and my jutsu will end, freeing you. Please don't follow us. Return to Konoha. No way. You think you stand a chance against all of us? I don't care if we're stuck. We'll get out, and start kicking your asses. Haku let out a sigh and said to Zabuza. You really have a death wish, don't you, punk? If circumstances were different, I might have enjoyed fighting you. Still, you should have kept your mouth shut, because now, I'm going to kill you all. He was startled to hear the sound of ice breaking. Unnoticed by anyone, Naruto had escaped. Haku was also taken aback. In shock, his hands emerged from the seal, releasing the group. Well now, that is impressive. No one's ever broken free from one of Haku's jutsu before. I might actually get a workout. Zabuza started to loosen his sword in preparation for an attack by flexing and stretching the arm that held it. Haku, make sure no one tries to escape. Yes, Zabuza. Sama. Haku leapt back into the trees and vanished, prepared to defend Zabuza and put an end to any escape attempt. Well, I hope you've enjoyed your lives. They all end now, Zabuza exclaimed, preparing to attack the group with his Zanbato raised. The Uzumaki crest on Naruto's Hite.8 then caught his attention. What the? No, it can't be. Hey, blonde brat, what's your name? In the clearing, everyone else's face failed. Haku was spared severe injuries when he fell from the tree. What's happening? Starting an attack and then stopping abruptly to ask a question is not typical of Zabuza, Sama. With piercing eyes, Zabuza gazed at Naruto and said, It's Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. Shit. You know what? Screw this. No way in hell I'm fighting you. The clearing was again overtaken by confusion. Why wouldn't the demon of the mist engage in combat with a genin? Zabuza. Sama, is something wrong? Why would his name change your mind? I don't care how hard up I am for food and supplies. Nothing can make me willingly attack a member of the Uzumaki clan. I owe them too much. I'm sorry, but I don't understand, Zabuza, Sama. I wouldn't expect you to know, Haku. I never told you, didn't think I'd ever meet another one. Naruto was uncertain about how to react when he was asked, You knew my clan. What connection might there be between this missing nin and his clan? Yeah. Well, one member of it. I'll explain. Any of you know why I'm called Demon of the Mist? Everyone had somewhat dropped their guard by now. Not so much that they couldn't swiftly get it back up, but enough to demonstrate that they wouldn't attack. Shino said. You killed the entire graduating class at the Kirigakure Academy. A class you weren't a member of. Yes. Until I did that, the graduation exam there was very different than it is now. Before, each student would be paired up with another one in the same class. They would do everything together for 4 years. Then, for graduation, they would be forced to fight to the death. The victor made genin. Kiba flinched. Wow. No offense, but why would anyone do that? That cripples how many ninja you can produce, and creates a lot of hatred within the village. Even though it had been the village's custom since its inception, the authorities eventually decided that it wasn't the best course of action after my actions there. Hey, what do you expect from a village that is called the Bloody Mist, and is proud of it? Anyway, that changed after my actions there. Anyway, I was game for a Chunin. Sensei after doing that. The lack of takers was not surprising. Nor would the academy allow me to return. People wanted me dead because they were afraid of me. I was then informed that a man named Uzumaki Kenji had been selected as my sensei. Everybody's eyebrows were at risk of becoming entangled in their hairline. Had one of Naruto's relatives served as the demon of the mist's Chunin? Sensei? I heard you. Kenji Uzumaki. I never had a better teacher than him. Although he had a broad range of skills, his areas of expertise were Suiden Jutsu and Kenjutsu. Taught me almost everything I've learned about shinobi. When I first asked him why he was willing to teach me, he explained that Kiri had a serious grudge against his clan because they had some of the best Suiden and Futon Jutsu ever. It was truly amazing that the village was still willing to let him live there. He also explained that because of this grudge, the village viewed him as a potential threat, just like I did, and that he was going to teach me how to be the best ninja I could be. He definitely fulfilled his pledge. Increased the village's fear of me. After all, a member of a clan Kiri had a tense relationship with was training one of the most dangerous shinobi in the village. Naturally, no one could claim that I wasn't psychologically or physically prepared for the promotions to Chunin and Junin when I was able to get them. The Mizukage, Kenji, Sensei, and the other swordsmen were the only people I could never reliably defeat during my time as a Kiri nin. Even after I made the swordsman, I still sparred regularly with Kenji. Sensei. At first, I managed to beat him, but he had never faced someone using a Zanbato before. After about 3 weeks of this, he went right back to kicking my ass. I asked him why he never tried for the swordsman, and he reminded me that he wouldn't qualify because he wasn't a Kiri shinobi. Kurenai cut him off. I see. So then why are you a missing nin now? It's common knowledge that you tried to assassinate the Mizuki. What no one knows is why. It had to do with the Bloodline Massacre. Yes, the Kagaya clan started the damn thing, but the Mizuki did nothing to stop it when it began using Kekai Genkai to target other clans in the area. He encouraged the bloodshed, sometimes more overtly than others, and eventually he began to lose support. He was negatively portraying the entire village by allowing the civil war to continue unchecked, and there were rumors that he would be removed from office. The order of succession is something that most people outside of Kiri are unaware of. The current swordsmen, in seniority order, are the first to be considered for and offered the position when the Mizuki is removed from office or passes away without appointing a successor. Following that, any retired former swordsmen who are still in good enough physical condition and health to accept the position. Any active shinobi who can demonstrate their abilities will have the opportunity to take it if none of them do. The Mizuki was afraid for his job, so without warning, he disbanded the swordsmen, branding us all traitors. We fled Kiri, hiding from the Anbu and the hunter. Nin sent after us. After about 2 years of this, I heard that Kenji Sensei had been killed, a bystander in a riot. Officially, that was what had happened. However, I knew about the grudge, and the details of the report were sketchy enough that it looked like an assassination cover. Up, especially to someone trained to do that sort of thing. Wait a second. The Hokage showed me the report on his death. He thought he was a bystander, too. Kenji Sensei's death had all the hallmarks of a Kiri assassin. Each village's assassination teams do things differently. Different poisons, variations in weapons, that sort of stuff. Someone who knows what to look for could tell which village killed someone. I was aware that the swordsmen could be reorganized to select a new Mizuki from among us in the event of the Mizuki's death. Hopefully, Kenji Sensei would have wanted the new Mizuki to try to put an end to the civil war. I therefore made the decision to attempt to eliminate the Mizuki and bring Mizu no Kuni back to order. I'm here now because it didn't work. You won't murder us because one of us is related to your deceased sensei, then? Yes, essentially, out of respect for him and a desire to live. I would have been in serious trouble if I had actually carried out my attack if the Gaki were well trained. After giving Zabuza a long look, Kurenai questioned, so, what are your plans for the future? We will have to report that we saw you and that you have assistance when we get to Konoha because you haven't carried out your original plan. Zabuza laughed without humor and said, yeah, I know, adding, I don't suppose Konoha would take us in, seeing as I'm a missing nin. 6 heads turned to gaze at Naruto as Kiba posed the question on their behalf. I wouldn't say that just yet. What are you discussing? First of all, I can't promise anything because this is totally unofficial. There are a few choices, depending on what you're willing to accept. Attempting to become a Konoha shinobi is an option. The Hokage knows that the majority of missing nin turned into missing nin because they disapproved of the way their village was being managed. The Hokage may grant such shinobi permission to join Konoha. Seeing him first would still be necessary. I wouldn't be able to meet with him even if I were to enter the village in chains. You can arrange to meet him outside the village if you're serious. All we would have to do is send a message with the essential information. Do you want to? Zabuza. Sama, whatever you decide, I support you, Haku said, turning to face Zabuza. Well, that would mean abandoning my primary objective in all of Thesa becoming Mizuki and putting an end to the civil war. Conversely, I'm sick of being a runaway. What information do you require from us, then? Naruto took out a pencil and some paper from his pack. All I need right now are your names, rank, reason for leaving, former village or country, and any unique skills you can bring to the village. We already have the majority of that information about you from your bingo book entry, excluding your reason. However, we would require the items for your associate. My name is Haku, formerly of Mizu no Kuni. All right, what was your rank prior to your departure? I didn't possess one. No village ever registered me as a shinobi. I was raised and trained by Zabuza Sama when I was a child. I was an orphan up until that point because of the massacre. You're not even a missing nin, then, so there shouldn't be any issues getting you in. Why did the massacre leave you orphaned? My mother has given me a Kekai Genkai. I am able to create ice out of water. My dad learned. I killed him before he could get me, but he killed my mother. I see, Naruto grimaced. The people in the village will adore you. As much as I dislike it, Kekai Genkai find refuge in Konoha. Will I be accepted there? I have a Kekai Genkai, So what do you mean that you dislike it? I think so. To clarify, Konoha is so devoted to Kekkei Genkai that she practically worships some of them. In certain cases, those with greater power even receive preferential treatment. Although I accept their existence and acknowledge their value, I don't think they should be given preferential treatment because of it. Oh. Zabuza. Sama once told me about the pre-massacre situation, I recall. Instead of being viewed as superiors, the clans with Kekkei Genkai were treated as equals. After finishing his writing, Naruto said, I wish I could have seen it. It sounded like my kind of place, whether I had any animosity toward the Uzumaki. Okay, I'll find a way to deliver this to Konoha. A hawk descended as Kurenai whistled. Here, Naruto. This hawk is going to deliver this straight to the Hokage. She tied the message to the bird's leg and released it, and it flew off toward Konoha. 3 days later, the 7 shinobi and dog arrived at a Konoha outpost on the border of Hai no Kuni, where they had been instructed to meet by the Hokage's response, and after waiting for approximately an hour, 3 figures emerged, accompanied by Iruka and Kakashi. Hi everyone. I hope having company doesn't bother you too. Normative practice for such matters. It's okay. To be honest, I was shocked at how quickly we received a response. I assumed you would have given it some thought as to whether or not it would be wise to meet us. I would have if it hadn't been sent by Naruto. But one thing I've discovered about Naruto is that he usually has good judgment about people. I'll listen to you if you believe that your desire to visit Konoha was genuine and that you had good reason to explain your previous behavior. You both meet my requirements for becoming Konoha shinobi, the Hokage said after Zabuza and Haku finished their stories. But, given your reputation, Zabuza, you probably couldn't be an active duty shinobi, at least not at first. A reserve would be you. Haku, on the other hand, has no records and is free to practice shinobi in any field. You could also become operatives for us. It's a bit riskier than the first option, but then again, why be a ninja if you don't want to take risks? You would supply us with information and goods not available through normal channels. In return, you would be paid and have access to Konoha's safe houses across the elemental countries. If I were to become a reserve shinobi, what would my duties be? Your daily duties would most likely be in the armory, forging or inspecting. That, or maintaining our emergency equipment and shelters. If you want, you could also be called upon to serve as an exam proctor for the chunin exams. Also, if you were willing, we would ask you on occasion to train some shinobi in kenjutsu. I thought a village like yours would have several accomplished kenjutsu users. We do have many kenjutsu specialists, but out of all of them, only one, Gecko Hayate, is also a capable teacher. I find that unacceptable, and since those of the mist are trained to use a sword in the academy, you would be a perfect choice for another teacher. Would I be able to choose my students? Within reason, of course. Haku said. What of me, Hokage? Sama. You are free to join us, but we have nothing to compare your skills to because you have no record as an active shinobi for any village. According to procedure, I cannot enlist you as anything higher than a chunin in such circumstances, regardless of your true abilities. Once you have settled in, you will be tested to establish your starting rank. I was also informed about your Kekkei Genkai by Naruto. The village council will be informed if you choose to become a Konoha shinobi, and they do have some influence over the conditions of your relocation. They might impose a requirement that you breed your Kekkei Genkai. A breed? It's not as horrible as it seems. All you need to do is have several kids in the hopes of passing on the Kekkei Genkai. If you'd like, it can also be set up for in vitro fertilization. May I then also make a condition? Sarutobi nodded, and Haku went on, I'll go wherever Zabuza Sama goes. Konoha must also accept Zabuza Sama if they wish to have my Kekkei Genkai. That's fine with me. Have you two made up your minds? I'll join. Me too. All right. Now, Haku, what specialty would you like to pursue if you were to make chunin? To be honest, I don't know, but I would ask for non-combat duty. Something sedative, at least until I'm able to change and decide. All right. Let's check. Oh, have you yet to fill Mizuki's post at the academy, Iruka? No, I haven't, Hokage. Sama. That would be effective. It's not quite combat, but it's also not sedate. Not the kind you would anticipate, anyway. Additionally, it would assist you in acclimating to Konoha customs. Thank you, Hokage. Sama. The 10 people and 1 dog then started to head for Konoha. The mission to Uzu no Kuni had been completed 2 weeks earlier. With little trouble, Zabuza and Haku had become Konoha shinobi. Before Zabuza could be considered for active duty, he was placed on probation for 6 months. In order to test himself against the man regarded as Konoha's best swordsman, he had sought out Gecko Hayate and challenged him to a duel as his first act as a shinobi. The Hokage and a few other shinobi watched the match after Hayate agreed. The outcome ended up being a draw because the training ground where it was held required extensive restoration. As Iruka's assistant, Haku was given the rank of chunin and assigned to the academy. He quickly found that he liked his job there. Additionally, he gained a fresh respect for his Kekai Genkai since some of its featureessa such as his Mirusa turned out to be quite helpful when interacting with the students. He was able to diffuse arguments and apprehend dishonest students almost instantly thanks to it. His admirers were the main source of his problems with Konoha life. The villagers immediately tried to bribe him into marrying into their families after they first announced that he was accepted into the village. Despite the fact that Haku had been addressed as male throughout the speech, a number of people had not heard it, which led to multiple offers of marriage for their sons. Haku endured this for 3 days before deciding to use the urinal in a public men's restroom to put an end to it. Embarrassed, the villagers with sons retracted their offers. However, that left the families with girls. Naruto and Team 8 received a bonus for bringing 2 skilled shinobi and a new Kekai Genkai to the village, in addition to the payment for completing a successful C-rank mission. Naruto attempted to return his share of the mission payment, claiming he didn't need the money because he personally benefited from the mission. In response, Sarutobi and Kurenai stated that he would still receive payment because he did not hire the team for the mission. Even if the mission had originated with the Hyuga, Aburame, or Inazuka clans, the same would have been true. After that, Naruto reluctantly took the money. The present active genin cells were meeting in the Hokage's office one afternoon. Sarutobi came up with the idea so that the Junin Sensei could compare their team's progress and share ideas about how to train them most effectively. Sasuke had declined, preferring to train alone, because the genin could choose to attend. In an attempt to secure a date with the Uchiha, Sakura had also declined. Ino attended the meeting because she was unaware that Sasuke would not be attending. Guy's team, Teams 8 and 10, Kakashi, Sai, and Naruto were seated and awaiting the Hokage's next words. Sarutobi gave a throat clearing. Alright, it looks like everyone is here that is going to show. Let's begin. How about a general team progress report? Kakashi, why don't you start? Hi, Hokage. Sama. Team 7 is still not ready for a C rank. Judging by individual ability, Sai and Sasuke are ready for the bigger stuff. As a whole, though, they still lack the necessary teamwork for a successful mission. Sasuke continues to believe that the others, including me to a degree, are holding him back and won't work with them. As a result, I'm running low on new teamwork exercises to have them do. Why you? And what about Sakura? Sakura has improved since she graduated, but not as much as I would have liked. She does well enough with the other genin level exercises I've had her do, and she's improved her chakra control with the tree climbing exercise, but she can't focus properly when Sasuke is around, which could spell disaster on a C-rank mission. I include myself because I find myself constantly telling them that they aren't ready for harder missions. Sasuke may see that as me holding him back from, quote, gaining more power. I've been attempting to break Sakura's fangirl tendencies, with differing degrees of success. She deserves praise for always trying her hardest, but eventually she reverts, and we have to start over. Unusual, Asuma said, raising an eyebrow. What suddenly made her so intent on bettering herself? Her actions have been blatantly fangirl. Kakashi sighed. It happened about a month or so ago, adding that we had just wrapped up the day's training. Sasuke and Sai had already departed. Sakura approached me, looking quite sad. She stated that she was thinking about going back to civilian life because she felt like a burden to her team. She told me that she wasn't getting better in any area when I asked why she felt that way. I had been trying to find a way to discuss this with her for a while after noticing this. I asked her to tell me about her training regimen. She described something a civilian would do to maintain their current weight. A ninja would only do that routine as part of rehabilitation after a serious injury. I told her that, and offered to help, but only if she would take her training seriously. She agreed, and has shown marked improvement ever since. So why is she backsliding? She backslides because she is on a team with the reason she became a fangirl in the first place. I can help her with the physical aspects of shinobi life, but I'm helpless at training kunoichi mentally. Ino grumbled, she's probably trying to impress Sasuke-kun. As if she could. I'm going to. With a, Ino, Asuma touched her shoulder. I didn't want to say this in front of everyone, but your training is suffering because of the Uchiha too. You don't eat properly, and as a result, you can't train properly. Is it a crime to watch my figure? I don't want to gain weight, so I'm on a diet. It isn't a crime, but it could cost you dearly later. Besides, if you increase your training regimen, you'll burn off the extra calories anyway. Naruto continued, you know, pretty much the only thing you and the rest of the Uchiha's fangirls haven't tried doing to win him over is take your duties as kunoichi seriously. Ino gave him a fierce look. I'll have you know that a lot of kunoichi are chosen for missions because of their looks. Looking our best is one of our duties for those missions. Kiba laughed. Yeah, but you don't get those kinds of missions until you're at least 15 or 16 in a chunin. Naruto's right, maybe if you try being a real kunoichi, you'll stand a chance with him. They didn't think it would work, based on something in the eyes of the boys who knew Sasuke. Ino was unaware. With that, Ino stormed out of the Hokage's office and made his way to the training grounds. You think so? Asuma. Sensei, I'll be at the training ground. Naruto looked up and said, okay, I need a judgment call on something. How guilty I feel about what we just did. I mean, we shouldn't manipulate our comrades like that, but we did it so Ino would work on being a better kunoichi, even if she's doing it for the wrong reasons. Then she said, you're right, it isn't good to push the buttons of your fellow shinobi like that, but now that she found the determination to improve, Shikamaru, Choji, and I can work with her until she's improving for the right reasons. All things considered, it was a big carrot and a little stick. Sai raised his gaze from his sketch. He said it with a complete deadpan, funny you should say that, Sarutobi-san, considering she's after the Uchiha. A little stick is exactly what he's got to work with. While the adults were laughing on the inside, the higher-ranking shinobi, Neji, and Shino were able to maintain a straight face. As she listened to remarks about the alleged shortcomings of one of her classmates, Hinata appeared extremely uneasy. Tenten was struggling to contain his laughter. But the other boys laughed aloud without even trying to stop themselves. The meeting resumed after they had calmed down. The following day, Sarutobi and Naruto were conversing in their usual training area. Naruto.kun, you've met, and in several cases, surpassed, every expectation I had for you. As a result, I think it's time we stepped up your training. Okay sensei, but what do you mean by stepping it up? Up to now, I have had you do everything as one person. Now we will start incorporating Kage Bunshin into your training. You already know that they can be used to perform extra work, and now I'm going to help you make the most of your unique proficiency with that jutsu. What's that supposed to mean? Naruto.kun, no one else has ever been able to make as many as you can. That means that if you use them wisely, you can benefit more than anyone else. Right now, why don't you make about, 50 Kage Bunshin? Then, split them into 3 groups. 20 will work on chakra control, another 20 on kunai and shuriken training. The final 10 will come with us and work on an advanced jutsu. We can adjust the numbers later if we need. Just one jutsu, sensei? If I have 10 clones helping me, couldn't I learn 11? Yes, you can, but I would rather you have a handful of jutsu that you can perform properly, instead of a large amount of jutsu you can't. If you want to use them that way, you are free to do so on your own time. Here, however, we'll do it my way. Oh, I get it. Same system as before. Get this one right, and then move on, alright. After creating the 50 clones, Naruto divided them up into groups. So, what is the jutsu, sensei? Today, you'll be learning Suiden. Tepudama Renden. Since Naruto had mastered the jutsu quickly thanks to his clones, Sarutobi chose to move on to a jutsu from Naruto's clan library. They ultimately decided on a jutsu that neither of them knew, so they would both leave today's training with at least one new jutsu. By the end of the day, Sarutobi had 2 new jutsu, and Naruto had 3. Naruto left the training ground slowly, exhausted. Sarutobi had never had the opportunity to truly see what had been brought back from Uzu no Kuni. The mission report had mentioned that the scroll contained legendary jutsu, and Kurenai had named some of them, but he was still unprepared to see the seals holding the scrolls in front of him, and it had taken almost all of his willpower not to unseal the scrolls and jump up and down, screaming gleefully at the top of his lungs, just like Naruto had done when he was younger, though occasionally Naruto still did that. When he was Naruto's age, Sarutobi had only heard about the first jutsu they decided to learn in the history lectures his teachers, the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages, had given him. Glancing through the notes in the jutsu scroll, he realized that this was not the original jutsu. It had apparently been engineered and given to the Uzumaki clan as a wedding gift. Ninpo. Tsurugi no Kabe was a variation on kunai or shuriken Kage Bunshin. In theory, it was fairly straightforward. A sword would be repeatedly duplicated, and then chakra would be used to position and control the swords. The swords would stay in one place, by default pointing vertically up, but their angle could be changed to skewer anything they came into contact with, giving the jutsu both defensive and offensive capabilities. By adjusting their formations, it was allegedly possible to create a wall that was very tall and wide, although doing so costed some of its defensive capabilities by spreading the swords out. The jutsu proved to be rather difficult, making the extra swords required a significant amount of chakra, and forming and adjusting the wall required at least chunin level control. To help Naruto understand how it worked, Sarutobi demonstrated kunai, shuriken cage bunshin, but he didn't show him the seals, stating that he wasn't ready for it and that he would need to work on seal speed before he could learn it. Naruto wasn't happy about it, but there was a valid reason, and he wasn't being denied the jutsu entirely. As with everything Sarutobi taught him, he would learn the jutsu when he was ready, and not before. Overall, both master and apprentice thought that Tsurugi no Kage was a good jutsu to know. A footnote mentioned that there was another jutsu among the scrolls that was somewhat easier, so they found it and tried it as well. This one was an original, but it was probably given to the Uzumaki as payment for a mission of some kind. Doden. Yari no Kage was much more to their liking. It was another jutsu that was both offensive and defensive, and it required less control. The more chakra used, the greater the effect. When used, a miniature forest of sharp stone spears would shoot up from the ground in any direction, allowing the user to completely trap a target. The spears reached the middle of Sarutobi's chest, so jumping over them was not an option. However, because they were anchored to the ground, they provided little protection from an aerial attack. Sarutobi responded that, to non-shinobi villagers, a jutsu was a jutsu when Naruto questioned why a Doden jutsu was paid to a clan of Suiten and futon users. Deciding that was sufficient jutsu training for a single day, Sarutobi had Naruto proceed to the next part of his training schedule. While passing a restaurant, Naruto noticed 4 people in particular: Asuma, Kakashi, Kurenai, and a Tokubetsu Junin, Mitarashi Anko. A Tokubetsu he frequently encountered when delivering messages to the interrogation department. She was fine, crazy as hell, but fine. Asuma and Kakashi were writing in notebooks. After the meeting, Kurenai had offered to advise the 2 men on how to permanently fangirl Sakura and Ino, and Anko was likely there to assist as well. Naruto searched his mind for a reason why the 4 of them would be together, and he recalled that, apparently, a kunoichi can only be cured of being a fangirl by the intervention of other, stronger kunoichi. At least that was his best guess. Kurenai and Anko were not at all patient with kunoichi who did not take training seriously, so he hoped that things wouldn't get so bad that they would become more involved with his 2 classmates. The sound of Kakashi calling him over jolted him out of his reverie. Kakashi, what's going on? You finished your day's training? Yes, I am. I thought I would find something to eat after I got home, showered, and changed. Why? Well, we've run out of some things entirely and nearly out of others. Would you mind going grocery shopping with me? All right, of course. What is required? Turning to the very back of his notebook, Kakashi ripped out a piece of the page and wrote down a list of roughly 10 items, some of which were likely Sakura's tips, while the remainder appeared to be notes on some new teamwork exercises, some of which Naruto recognized from the mission with Team 8. This is yours. Regards, Naruto. No issue. After saying, see you at home, Naruto left. Asuma posed a question after Naruto had left her line of sight. So, tell us something, Kakashi. To what extent is he stable? What's that supposed to mean? Kakashi asked, narrowing his eye. I apologize. That didn't turn out right. I was asking if there were any indications of his. Oh, what word does Dad like to use? You got it, his renter. Apart from what we already know, is there anything new? The 2 people who spend the most time with him are you and your father. The majority of the indications that we have observed are physical. His ungodly endurance, his quick recovery, and the whisker marks. He has such vast reserves that he can actually produce a visible aura of chakra if he focuses. The issue is that his control will require ongoing effort as a result. To keep it in check, double, perhaps triple, what anyone else would require. Mentally, though, we've absolutely no clue. He's been on his own so long, without anyone able to regularly check on him, there's no way to know if he's always been the way he is now. He told me that he used to keep a journal, but they were always destroyed by the villagers, so he stopped. Anko whistled. Crap, so he may very well be a time bomb. Yeah. Although, if that proves to be the case, the positive turn his life has taken in the last couple years may be enough to buy us time to defuse the situation. Personally, I don't think there's going to be a problem, so long as no one tries anything stupid. The most anyone's done to him since he moved in with me has been glaring, or yelling insults if they're drunk. Even that has become almost non-existent since Hokage Sama started training him. Well, yeah, he's the Hokage's student. No Konoha citizen in their right mind would attack someone under his protection. You forget, he's had the Hokage's protection his entire life. It was ignored. Any attack on Naruto has always been considered treason, and punished as such. The only difference is, now Sandaime Sama is taking an active role in it. Right now, and attacking Naruto would be seen as an attack on Sandaime Sama, which no one in the village would want to admit to being a part of. So were there any problems when he moved in? There were a couple. Before Naruto moved in, Sandaime Sama had me talk to a specialist, a child psychologist who dealt with cases like this. She explained some of the difficulties that were more than likely going to crop up as a result from Naruto being on his own for so long. So far, she's been pretty accurate. Naruto had a tough time adjusting at first, and it shows up again every once in a while. Despite the fact that he seems like an open book, he's actually rather private with most things. He's also unsure on how to handle his emotions at times. He understands them, he just doesn't always know what to do about them. Anko's throat cleared. As riveting as this is, could we get back to what we came here for? Asuma, what I think would work best for Ino is aggressive negative stimuli therapy. Asuma's mouth fell open. Anko, are you nuts? I want Ino to take her training seriously. Why would you even suggest that? Returning to the subject, the conversation went on for several more hours. Naruto came out of the bathroom in the apartment where he and Kakashi lived. He had just gotten out of the shower and had already put away the groceries. Time for food. Now then, do I eat here or at Ichiraku's? What am I saying, Ichiraku's, of course. Naruto picked up his copy of the clan library scroll and decided to wait a little while before leaving. Let's see. What to read, what to read. The Uzumaki clan and the rivers of Hades. Another scroll was revealed when Naruto opened the marked spot. After opening it, he started reading. As it turned out, the scroll described how the Uzumaki clan allegedly acquired the river techniques and how they have since been modified. The Shinigami arrived to take the soul of a dying baby belonging to the Uzumaki clan shortly after the shinobi nations were established. He reached for the soul when he got there, but it refused to come out of the body. By sheer willpower, the baby was surviving while the body was dying. The Shinigami were aware that such incidents did occur occasionally, but they were extremely uncommon when they occurred in infants, particularly those who were not in a hospital. The clan members who were keeping watch over the baby could see the Shinigami. They responded as one might anticipate. In a nearly unprecedented gesture, the Shinigami expressed his sympathies for the circumstances. He informed them that although he had a job to do, caring for babies and kids was never easy for him. The head of the clan came forward and informed him that the child was in excruciating pain and dying due to a birth defect that could not be reversed by medicine. The hope that the child would not suffer any more was their only comfort. The Shinigami assured them that his soul was not dark and that he had no reason to endure any more suffering. The Uzumaki in attendance started crying. In an attempt to gather their thoughts so they could talk clearly, the child's parents thanked the Shinigami for informing them. He was taken aback. Typically, people pleaded with him to spare a soul by making bribes and promises. He came to take one, but they didn't thank him. The parents went on to offer him whatever assistance they could in case he ever needed it. Anyone watching this would have been in awe. Mortal creatures volunteering to aid the Shinigami, a seemingly all-powerful entity? At that offer, the Shinigami had hesitated. He was bound by laws, which prevented him from getting directly involved in most mortal affairs outside of his regular responsibilities, even though it was true that he had almost limitless power. If he ever needed a loophole, he would have one with human agents. The Shinigami offered the Uzumaki clan something in light of that. He would be willing to pay the clan a small amount if they would act as his agents among the living in the event that he ever needed them, but the infant had to die. An agreement was reached after clumsy negotiations that started because of the participants' emotional states. In addition to being able to call forth water from the rivers and an ancient creature, the Uzumaki would assist the Shinigami when he needed it. The baby's body finally failed as soon as the agreement was finalized. Many changes were made in the decades after the agreement. Though they were decent people, the Uzumaki occasionally abused their gifts, such as using phlegethon to generate heat in the winter. If you know a jutsu that burns without fuel, why waste firewood? The clan elders made the decision to limit access to the rivers out of concern that the Shinigami would become irate. The hand seals that had been in use since they acquired the ability were replaced by seals that were made specifically for each river. The seals were made to require the user to be in a life-threatening circumstance or to be experiencing strong emotions in order to use a river. The intensity of the emotion was what mattered, not whether it was positive or negative. In order to stop someone who wasn't ready from using lethe and mnemosine, the seals would also become available in a particular order. After that, the seals were keyed to the genin, chunin, and junin, the fundamental standards of the shinobi ranks. 2 more rivers could be unlocked after fulfilling the prerequisites for each rank. It was prohibited to use the hand seals after they were completed. Examining the prerequisites for every level, Naruto saw that he had been able to use the second pair for the past week by these standards. He simply hadn't encountered a circumstance that required him to employ them. The scroll also stated that the clan agreed to learn more about a variety of topics in order to better fulfill their end of the agreement. They had reasoned that, should their services ever be needed, they would be better able to carry out the Shinigami's wishes if they had a wider foundation of knowledge in areas outside of shinobi life. Naruto's gaze was drawn to the clock. Crap. I've been sitting here reading for an hour and a half. If I want Ichiraku's, I need to leave now. Naruto resealed the scroll, returned it to his room, and blasted out the door, moving at a pace that was only possible when he was running late. Gotta move, gotta. Oh, if someone had been knocked down by Naruto's collision, he got up and turned to face the person he had encountered. Hinata. Chan? N. Naruto.kun. Hey there. What are doing here? Kurenai. Sensei cut our training short today. I stayed behind and trained by myself. I finished, and was heading home when I ran into you. I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it. Tell you what, why don't we eat at Ichiraku's? My treat. Naruto.kun, Hinata said, blushing slightly. Are you asking me out on a date? Naruto was now scratching the back of his head as he blushed as well. I guess I am asking you out. What do you say? I'd love to. Great, let's go. Naruto then took off in the direction of Ichiraku's. Hinata was stunned as she stood there. She had agreed to Naruto's request, which he made voluntarily. She would then have to locate a space where she could have a proper celebration. Even though she was ashamed to acknowledge it, she prepared a victory dance for the occasion of being asked out by the object of affection, just like the other members of Sasuke's fan club. Because of her personality and position as the heiress, she refrained from doing it anywhere there was even the remotest possibility that someone else might witness. She heard Naruto's voice as she was considering potential locations. Hey, Hinata. Chan, are you coming or not? Upon reaching Ichiraku's, Naruto leapt onto a stool. Calmly, Hinata took one beside him. Ayame approached the counter with a broad smile. Naruto.kun, it's been 3 days. We were getting worried, and who is this? Ayame.nay. This is Hinata. Chan. Hinata. Chan, this is Ayame. She and her dad own this place. I've been coming here for as long as I can remember. It's AP. Pleasure to meet you, Ayame.san. Likewise. Now, what can I get you too? Light conversation started after the ramen was served. Hinata was introduced to Tucci, who had emerged from the rear. Ayame seized the opportunity to pose a query that had been bothering her for some time. So, Naruto, how's your training coming along? Must be something else, if it's keeping you from coming here. It's really cool. The only thing I'm really missing out on is what it's like being on a team. Tucci let out a sigh. Naruto, she was asking what it's like being the Hokage's apprentice. No offense, but for a ninja, you aren't very good at picking up on what isn't being said. Naruto gave a blink. Hey, I'm working on it. Being the Hokage's apprentice is really tough. A lot of people keep telling me they're expecting great things from me, even if they're just sucking up to my sensei. Still, I'm not complaining. You aren't? That's a lot of pressure to deal with. Until a couple years ago, I could count on one hand the number of people in this village who honestly expected me to ever amount to anything. Yeah, I'll complain about being called an idiot, or any number of things, but I don't ever see myself complaining about someone expecting me to be better. That could change, Naruto. Everything can change. Now, what's this I've been hearing about you getting a kenjutsu teacher? Huh? Oh, yeah, tomorrow. I start kenjutsu lessons with Momochi Zabuza. We know about his reputation, and that he came back with you too after that C-ranked mission a while ago, but what's so special that has other shinobi talking about it? Some of them were fairly annoyed at the news. When I first started training with sensei, a lot of shinobi started making offers to train me in different areas. For the most part, they just wanted to suck up to sensei, and we turned down their offers. Some made the offer just because they really wanted to help. Maeda Guy was the only one whose offer we seriously considered accepting, because I needed a taijutsu teacher who could spar with me. If sensei ever sparred with me, he'd be bedridden for a week. We didn't want to take advantage of him, so we made an agreement. So the reason other shinobi are talking about it is probably because it's rare for me to ever get steady training from someone other than sensei or Guy. Sensei. Okay, that makes sense, but I was under the impression Hokage Sama was an experienced weapons user. Why, then, is he having you study under someone else? He is a weapon user, but he specializes in fighting with a staff, mainly Enma, the Ape Lord, in his transformed state. He's good with swords too, but he told me that Zabuza would be teaching me. I wonder why that is. I'm not sure, but my guess is that it's part of something about AP appearances. Hinata caught Naruto's attention. Why do you say that, Hinata-chan? Hinata inhaled deeply to relax. Her goal was to stutter as little as she could. Zabuza-san has a reputation for being dangerous. Part of his agreement to live here was that he would be able to teach Ken jutsu. The problem is, if everyone is afraid of him, no one will ask for training. That's probably why you're going to learn from him. If Hokage Sama isn't willing to trust his student to be safe learning from Zabuza-san, who will? That's very true, Tucci said. A leader needs to be able to trust those he leads, but those that are led must also be able to trust their leader to make decisions that will benefit them all. Hokage Sama has taken a very big gamble in making Zabuza-san and Haku-san Konoha shinobi. He needs to show that he was right in doing so. Haku-san, from what I've heard, has already proven he was worth it, simply by his performance as an academy instructor, not to mention his Kekai Genkei. Zabuza, however, has not been given the chance. Which is why I'm learning from him, said Naruto, to give him the chance to prove he's worth whatever may happen when Kiri finds out, or any of Zabuza's enemies. But we're still just guessing. We don't know for sure. Well now, my daughter and the Hokage's student, eating together. This is unexpected. The four turned to find the source of the new voice. With an eyebrow up, Hyuga Hiashi stood beside one of Ichiraku's walls. Hinata began to stiffen. I was aware that the two of you were in the same class at the academy, and that you participated in a C-rank mission together. I wasn't, however, aware that the relationship between you was anything more than that of comrades. If this had been any other parent, Naruto was certain that they would be smirking or dragging their child away. However, Hiashi and all other Hyuga except Hinata were essentially unreadable. Naruto concluded that his best course of action was to be polite and give a brief explanation. He'd seen images of what a skilled Hyuga with Jukin could do to a human, and Hiashi was definitely skilled. Hyuga Sama, let me explain. I was heading here to eat, when I ran into your daughter, who had just finished training by herself. I asked her to join me, and she agreed. If my offer disrupted any plans, I apologize. Your apology is unnecessary. I wasn't expecting to see my daughter until later. Hinata, you will be sparring against your sister tonight. Hinata swallowed. Hi, 2-san. Wait a second. You want her to spar against her sister? Yes, I do. Do you have a problem with that, Uzumaki-san? Well, if you want her to spar her sister, I know it's none of my business. I just don't see why. It is necessary. Hinata has never beaten her sister, Hanabi, nor her cousin, Neji, whom I am aware you occasionally spar against when you train with his sensei. Okay, but you still haven't explained why Hinata needs to spar with her own sister. Unless both are extremely cold-hearted, you're never going to see their full abilities. Hiyashi's eyebrow went up once more. So you feel that Hinata holds herself back because she doesn't want to harm her sister. Why do you say that? I'll admit that my knowledge of how things work in a shinobi clan like yours, let alone a family, is pretty much non-existent. What I do understand is that while siblings will fight, most of it will be verbally, with a little roughhousing. Making them face each other accomplishes nothing except causing bad blood between them, and Hinata just doesn't seem like the type of person who would want to do that. Tell me, how sure of this are you? I'm very sure. Very well, Hinata will not spar her sister this time. Instead, she will spar you. Naruto gave a blink. Me, yes, you. You were sure that Hinata is holding herself back when she spars someone she is related to. You are not related to her, so by your logic, she will not hold back against you. Or are you unsure of my daughter's ability to prove you right? When Naruto saw the size of the hole he had made for himself, he winced. He could either decline and cause Hinata emotional harm by stating he didn't believe in her, or he could spare her and run the risk of physically harming her. Alright, I'll spar Hinata. Where and when? Hiashi left after saying, the dojo at the Hyuga compound, in an hour. Hinata knows the way. N. Naruto.kun, why did you do that? You didn't have to accept. Hinata. Chan, I'm sorry I got you into this mess. I opened my mouth without thinking, and I need to deal with the consequences. But I couldn't hurt you. Hinata. Chan, you're supposed to push yourself in a spar, physically and mentally. If you hold back, no one improves. Besides, as long as you don't try to deal a death blow, I'll be fine. I'll try. No, Hinata. Chan, don't try, do. The two were facing one another in the Hyuga dojo an hour later. The only other spectators were Hiashi and Hanabi. Hiashi said. After receiving nods from both, he asked, are you both ready? And started the match. Naruto immediately became defensive. It seems that Hinata had gone a bit farther than he had anticipated with his advice. He knew from his few spars with Neji that blocking would not help against the Jukin because even a brief touch caused excruciating pain. He was better off avoiding the blows completely. Naturally, it was not easy to avoid Hinata. Her speed and agility more than compensated for her lack of physical strength. Except for openings at the groin or chest, Naruto took any available opening. He didn't want to take the chance of unintentionally touching Hinata, particularly in front of her father, who was capable of doing him a lot of terrible and painful things. Seeing his best opportunity to put an end to the spar, he sent her to the ground with a leg sweep. Unfortunately, Hinata's own leg sweep was too quick for him to avoid. She was on top of him once he was down, kneeing on his chest and striking his head with her palm, which would have killed him if she had used even a small amount of chakra. Before Hiashi spoke, they were both motionless. He went on, I think I've seen enough. Hinata, Uzumaki-san, would you both please sit down? After they had both taken a seat, I must admit, Uzumaki-san, that your argument seems to have some validity. Hinata has never performed so well, but it is too much of a leap in skill to be attributable to her desire to protect her family. You claimed it seemed heartless to force family members to fight with one another. You're correct, but let me explain why it's done this way because, should you succeed in your stated objective and become Hokage, you'll need to learn this lesson. One of my daughters will eventually succeed me as the head of the clan. Hinata would typically be promoted by default because she was the oldest. She hasn't yet lived up to the expectations of a prospective clan leader, though. I must thus keep my options open and take Hanabi into consideration as a potential candidate. What is the clan head expected to do? It cannot be solely determined by fighting prowess. You're correct, it is more crucial that the clan head has a strong will than that they are exceptional with the Jukin. Every leader, whether they are a daimyo, kage, or head of a clan, must make choices that contradict their moral convictions in order to further the common good. Could you do that at this stage of your life? Hiashi gave them a moment to consider that before going on. Making unpopular decisions, even when they are for the greater good, is another disadvantage of being a leader. Human nature dictates that you cannot please everyone. A leader must, however, stick to his convictions. Hinata struggles most in this area. She cares too much about what other people think of her and wants to please everyone. Isn't it admirable that she is concerned about how others perceive her? Yes, in moderation, but after a while, you start to care less about doing your job well and more about how people see you. Being a leader is not a popularity contest. I have her spare her sister for this reason. She must be able to carry out her duties and accept the consequences if she is to be the clan's leader. Although that makes sense, isn't there another approach? One that doesn't lead to sibling rivalry. I wish a better method existed. Regretfully, this is worse than the only options that come to mind. Because hypothetical situations are just that, a hypothetical, they are less effective. Much of the potential impact is lost because they aren't real. Her father was at her side instantly, Naruto on the other side, and Hanabi staring at her, not understanding what was going on, when Hinata suddenly clutched her head and started making noises that indicated she was in pain. What's wrong, Hinata? Talk to me. Hiashi activated his Byakugan to see what was going on, but he could find nothing unusual other than an increased flow of chakra around her eyes. Eventually, the pain subsided and Hinata was able to speak, albeit in short gasps, despite the fact that she was crying and unable to speak through the pain. It can be painful at times, so that I can utilize the Byakugan. The pain usually gets worse the longer I have it activated. That would imply that you were running low on chakra, Hiashi said, raising an eyebrow. But you had not yet depleted half of your reserves when I last looked at you. This is highly unusual. You two can go, Hinata and Hanabi. I want you to go straight to bed, Hinata. Before Uzumaki-san departs, I would have a private conversation with him. Hiashi gestured for Naruto to accompany him out a separate door as the two departed. Well, that was pretty scary, but let's move on to what I wanted to talk to you about. Do you now see why I forced them to spar with one another? Yeah, but I still don't like it. In fact, I don't either. I agree with you that family members shouldn't fight physically. It splits this clan almost irrevocably. So, to carry on the conversation we were having prior to the thrill, do you think you're prepared for the duties that come with being Hokage? Sensei has been teaching me office procedures, but we haven't even started discussing the mental aspect of the work. It would wait until I had more experience, he said. More seasoned. In what way? He told me that even though I've been a shinobi for about 4 months now and I've been doing missions that are technically chunin level almost daily, I haven't killed anyone yet. It makes sense. You will send shinobi on missions as Hokage, missions from which they might not return. This particular military leadership lesson is frequently postponed until after the potential leader has taken a life in order to fully comprehend its significance. You risk offending the families of those who pass away by sending their loved ones. Do you think you'll have the strength to endure that? For my entire life, the majority of this village has hated me. This won't be any different, in my opinion. Yes, it will. I assume you now understand why you have received that treatment. The primary distinction is that you were subjected to what had been done to you on the day of your birth, and it is unlikely that you were aware of it until very recently. Yeah, Naruto said with a nod. I discovered it on the day I received my academy diploma. Well, sending people on the mission would be a deliberate choice on your part as Hokage. You'll be able to see the resentment and anger and understand why it exists. What separates what you have gone through from what you will go through is the guilt. You believe I'll make it, then. That one day I'll be Hokage. Well, maybe. It's your objective, you said. You are also at the top of a very small list of possible successors because the Hokage is personally training you. Ignoring something like that would be stupid. They were at the front door now. Well then, thank you for the lessons, Hyuga-sama. You're very welcome. Hiashi leaned closer and said, there is nowhere you can hide that I won't find you if you ever make my daughter cry and I find out. Enjoy your day. Hiashi grinned as Naruto turned 3 shades white, swallowed loudly, and left the room. I've been waiting a long time to play the overly protective dad, and I really enjoyed it. Ah, the pleasures of having a teenage daughter. Exhausted, Naruto staggered up to the door of his and Kakashi's apartment. Training today had been a nightmare. His teachers had put him through a series of tests today to gauge his general development. Gai's taijutsu had come first, then kenjutsu and zabuza, and finally general weapons. Everything else had been covered by Sarutobi. After passing each one, he fell to the ground. He awoke to find the 3 men conversing with one another beneath a tree. When they saw that Naruto had returned to the world of the living, they informed him that, depending on his performance, they would be changing some aspects of his training schedule. Naruto was told not to train again until tomorrow and was sent home. He opened the door. There should be no one inside. A long time ago, Kakashi and Team 7 had been placed on an extended C rank. They were serving as bodyguards for a bridge builder who was being escorted to Nami no Kuni until the completion of his most recent project. Since he still believed Team 7 wasn't prepared, Kakashi was hesitant to accept it when it was offered. They were prepared on an individual basis, but by this time, their teamwork was still lacking. Kakashi accepted it with the intention of waking the 2 male genin from their respective dysfunctions. Yo, Naruto gave a blink. Kakashi was on a couch, lying down. This position usually came with a copy of Ika Ika, but today the books were oddly missing. Hey, you're home. Nope, I'm not really here. I'm just a figment of your imagination. Ha ha, when did you get back? The tone of Kakashi's voice changed as she said, a couple hours ago. We reported to the Kage Bunshin Hokage. Sama left in the office. It then dispelled itself to relay the information. I sent them home and came here. Instead of his typical tone of calm, almost indifferent, he sounded emotionally and physically exhausted. Naruto sat down in a chair close by. So how did the mission go? Well, our client wasn't exactly honest about the situation. On the way, we also ran into some missing nin from Kiri, the demon brothers. After that, I confronted him about what was really going on. Turns out, instead of a small gang of bandits terrorizing his work site, he was really being targeted for assassination by a wealthy businessman and his personal army. Wait, he lied about why he wanted ninja. Why did you keep going? It's true that if you discover that your client has falsified information vital to the mission, you have every right to quit then and there, and return to the village. The thing is, with a team, you need a majority decision to turn back. Sakura voted to go back, but Sai and Sasuke voted to continue. So what happened? We continued on to his home. It turns out he has a daughter and a grandson. I wish you could have come along. His grandson needed someone to talk some sense into him, and you would have done the best job at it. What's his problem? The man he considered his father was killed in public by the businessman, Gato, for standing up to him. After that, he became a rather sullen little brat, thinking standing up to Gato was useless. Now I wish Sensei had sent me with you. One question, though, if you knew how outnumbered you were, why didn't you send for back up? I should have, but at the time, I thought it would have done more harm than good to send for back up so soon. How do you figure that? We were the last of this year's Genin teams to take a C rank, because I felt they weren't ready. I accepted it because they are ready for more advanced missions. It was their first C rank, and if I had sent for more help so soon, they might see it as a sign that I still didn't think they were ready. I know you were sent along with Team 8 for your first C rank, but if Kurenai had decided that you needed help for some reason, wouldn't you have resented it? Yeah, I suppose I would have seen it as a lack of faith in our abilities. Still, which is more important? Showing your students you have faith in them or doing what you know you should do to make sure they survive? I know, and that's one of my biggest problems. I'm an excellent shinobi in combat, but as a teacher, I suck. That's part of why I made sure that the graduating teams assigned to me always failed their test. Just because I'm called a genius shinobi doesn't mean I can teach others. I guess that makes sense. Anyway, what else happened on the mission? Thankfully, the demon brothers were the only shinobi we had to fight. The rest were just a bunch of bandits and mercenaries Gato had hired. We fought them, and I killed Gato, along with most of his goons. We stayed a couple extra days to recover, and headed home. Sasuke spent most of the trip home sulking. Why would he sulk? Did he not get to do anything? He was sulking because even though he had been in a battle, greatly outnumbered, he walked away from it without gaining the Sharingan. What? I thought it was supposed to activate in situations like that. It is, but there's a catch. From what I understand, the Uchiha in question must be in a life-threatening situation, and they must also be able to admit it to themselves. Sasuke was fighting for his life, but he refused to see a bunch of non-shinobi, no matter how many there were, as a threat to him. Had there been a shinobi for him to fight, he might have activated it. As it stands, he's probably going to go looking for a strong shinobi to fight, in hopes it will unlock then. He'd been watching Haku and Zabuza train before we left, so he might go looking for a fight with one of them. I'll warn them not to accept if he challenges them. Haku will try to avoid a fight, but Zabuza wouldn't hold back from putting the Tem in his place, which would be the hospital at best. Then you should definitely warn them. I just wish I could get through to Sasuke. I just want to do something to help him gain some peace of mind. I've been meaning to ask you about that. Why do you have such a personal interest in Sasuke? I know the council forced you to continue training the team, but why is he so important to you? I'm repaying a debt. A debt? Who do you owe so badly? I really don't feel like talking about it, alright. Kakashi, I really think you should talk about it. When I first moved in, you made me talk to you about things, so I could start trusting people with how I really felt. Why can't you share your story with me? Kakashi let out a sigh. Curse his reasoning. Nor will he let it go until I tell him. Which parent did he inherit that from? When they felt like it, they could both be damn stubborn. If you're so sure, I'll tell you. How much do you know about my own Genin team? All I've been able to figure out is that you're the last surviving member. My father was a member of a team sent on a crucial mission for the village when I was around 5 years old. The mission failed because my father decided to save his teammates' lives instead of finishing the mission, and as a result, he became a virtual outcast and not even the people he saved would talk to Hima and eventually committed seppuku. I interpreted this to mean that friendship and teamwork were meaningless ideas and that the only thing that mattered was finishing the mission. The only things that mattered to me were the rules. I later went to the academy, where I graduated as the Rookie of the Year at the age of 7. My Junin Sensei was the man who would eventually become the Yondaime Hokage. My teammates were a kunoichi named Rin and Uchiha Obito. Holy shit, wait a second, if you were the rookie of the year, wouldn't that make him? Yeah, Obito was the dobi that year. He was one of a handful of Uchiha shinobi that weren't the rookie of the year when they went through the academy, and the only one to be the dobi. Bet that was a lot of fun for the other two on your team, having two icebergs on one team. Kakashi gave a snort. Actually, I acted more like a Uchiha than Obito did. Obito? Well, in all honesty, he was a lot like you. So Obito was only a Uchiha by blood, not mind. Yep, he was friendly, outgoing, and humble. He was also a total goofball. I see more of him in you than Sasuke. He also believed that teamwork was more important than anything. Well, that sucks. The one Uchiha I could have gotten along with, and I'll never meet him. I almost wish I could have seen the arguments between the two of you. The arguments were nothing special. I didn't really care about my teammates, so I ignored them at every opportunity, Kakashi said with a sigh. I didn't even bother with team training sessions most of the time. I would train by myself, and sensei would have to find me and physically drag me to them. So what happened? The war with Iwa happened. Obito, Rin, and I were sent on a mission. I was a Chunin, and in charge of the mission. During it, Rin was captured. I was ready to abandon her, but Obito wanted to go after her. He called me an arrogant ass, told me that those who abandoned their teammates were worse than trash, and took off to go rescue her. After a little bit, I went after him. We managed to rescue Rin, but were ambushed by Iwa ninja. I lost my left eye, and Obito activated his Sharingan for the first time, only to be crushed by a rockslide. Before he died, he had Rin take his left Sharingan eye and implant it in my left eye socket. This was the first time Naruto had ever witnessed Kakashi sobbing in public. He died, and I never had the chance to tell him he was right, or how important he was to me. It makes me sick, thinking about all the times I insulted him and did things by myself. Even after all that, he still saw me as a friend. After that, I made it a personal mission to try and make amends by being the best shinobi I could be, and eventually pass on his beliefs to anyone I could. It's the reason I prefer the Bell test, because in order to pass, you need to be willing to sacrifice your personal goals for the good of the team. I just wish I could have done something more to save him, or at least let him know he got through to me. He knew, Kakashi. Thanks for trying, but you're wrong. He never knew. Yes, he did. You said yourself that I'm a lot like Obito, so here's how I see it. The instant you turned back to go after him and Rin, he knew. If he hadn't gotten though to you, you would have left them both to die. Naruto had never witnessed Kakashi so distraught. He died anyway, so what good did it do? He died in vain. To put it mildly, it was frightening. But if you hadn't gone with him, there's no guarantee he'd have even made it within sight of Rin, let alone save her. Instead, he died knowing that he saved her, and that he got through to you. He didn't die in vain, and he died relatively happy. What makes you think he died happy? Both you and Sensei have told me at some point that one of the greatest gifts any person can be given is the right to choose the circumstances of their death. He died on his terms, something a lot of people don't get the chance to do. I understand that you regret what you did and didn't do. That's normal. I also think it's great that you want to pass on what he believed. What I see you doing wrong, though, is that you're dwelling on the past, like Sensei does sometimes. You have both taught me that when a mistake is made, you're supposed to learn from it, and move on. You've both learned from your mistakes, but neither of you are moving on. Why can't you follow your own advice? You're right, and a lot of people have told us just that over the years. The thing is, guilt knows no logic but its own. It's why I'm trying so hard to get through to Sasuke, to repay my debt to Obito. No offense, but if you wanted to get through to him, you're a little too late. The best time to do it would have been right after Itachi killed everyone, when his Avenger routine wasn't set in stone. Now, I don't know what it would take to knock some sense into him before he does something really stupid. Yes, but I can still try. There's always a chance he'll come around. Sitting there, Naruto gazed at Kakashi. It was a penetrating, unflinching gaze, neither a glare nor a stare. It really irritated Kakashi because Minato Sensei had been the one to give him that look the last time. His eyes seemed to be peering into his soul. Naruto finally said something. You really shouldn't lie so much, Kakashi. Now you're lying to yourself and believing it. What's that supposed to mean? You claim to be assisting Sasuke in honoring Obito's memory, but that isn't what you truly want. You want Sasuke to become a second Obito, which isn't going to happen without a lobotomy or a bunch of mood-altering drugs. You see yourself in Sasuke, not Obito, and you want him to wake up, but not in the same manner that you did. The point is that Sasuke is not Obito and most likely never will be. I'm heading to the shower. Yes, we can discuss this further later if you would like. Kakashi nodded silently as Naruto went to get the supplies for his shower, and when he heard the water running, he got up and went to his bookcase, reaching up to the top where he kept some personal items. His hand hovered over a small dust-covered metal box, which he pulled down and opened to reveal his Genin team's team photo. At the time, he had wanted to skip the photo and train, but Minato had thrown him over his shoulder and taken him to join the rest of his team. His eyes began to well up as he looked at it, though only his exposed eye was visible. I know you wished you had more time with us, but did you die contented? Is Naruto correct, Obito? Am I attempting to keep Sasuke from repeating my mistakes in the name of paying you back? I still believe that it's part of some hidden Kekai Genkai you had and were unaware of, but he's got his mother's sense of tact and he's about as subtle as a wrecking ball. Minato. Sensei, you would be proud of your son. He has the potential to take the title of the greatest shinobi ever to come from Konoha from you. He's also gained your ability to see what people are hiding, even from themselves, and can guess as to the real motivations of others. What can I say, Rin? I would ignore you before Obito passed away, but you were ultimately all I had left. Minato. Sensei was preoccupied with getting ready for the Hokage position after the war, but you were always there for me. As long as I live, I will do everything in my power to ensure that no team ever has to experience what ours did. I miss you all so much. After putting the picture away, Kakashi sat down again and started crying more than he had in a long time. Naruto noticed Kakashi's eyes drying up when he returned outside. Kakashi, are you alright? Yes, I will be alright. I didn't want to hear what you just said, but I needed to hear it. Oh, you mean the Rookie of the Year? Tell me, does that title actually matter as much as people think it does? It varies. It serves as a motivator in the academy to get the students to put in a lot of effort. Some people view it as a benchmark to strive for and an indication of exceptional talent. It's something that limits one's ninja skills to others, such as you, the Aburame and Nara clans, and possibly Obito. You stated 2 years ago that you believed it was preferable for a ninja to be undervalued in order to conceal their actual skills. They have their own ideas about how important it is, and you have yours. Why are you asking? After some contemplation in the shower, I discovered 3 characteristics that the majority of rookies of the year appear to share. Everyone I could think of shared them, though I'm not sure if they apply to everyone who received the title. Alright, fire. Which 3 criteria must you meet to win Rookie of the Year? They must be conceited first. They must also be as amiable as an iceberg. Third, they must be self-destructively fixated on a concept or objective. I get the first 2, but you'll have to explain that last one. Well, when you were the rookie, you claimed to be completely fixated on the rules. He's always talking about gaining power with Sasuke. Neji has this strange fixation on destiny, fate, or whatever. I understand. The gaining power thing was one of the many similarities between Itachi and his brother. Orochimaru, on the other hand, was constantly obsessed with learning new jutsu. Now that you mention it, it's actually a little scary. However, it could be argued that you have your own obsessions, such as eating ramen and becoming Hokage. How can those be destructive to themselves? Even though I've been told time and time again that ramen is bad for me, I still love it, and I'm getting closer to becoming Hokage every day. Alright, how would you respond if you were unable to serve as Hokage? What if you had to decide between becoming Hokage and starting a family? Or what if you were injured and couldn't continue to practice ninja? Whether Kyuubi can grow back a lost limb is unknown. Then, what would you do? Naruto froze at that. I don't know. That's why I inquired. You're determined to become Hokage, which is a noble ambition, but you have no plans beyond that. While it's beneficial to consider the future, you must also maintain your focus on the here and now. That calls for a contingency plan. I will think about it. Alright, let's change the topic, shall we? I think we've hit our depression quota for a while. What has transpired during our absence? Well, we'll see. Last week, Haku and Ayame from Ichiraku's began to work consistently. She's 3 or 4 years older than him, isn't she? Bravo, Haku, I'm so proud of him, Kakashi said, wiping away a fictitious tear. Yes, she is 18, and Haku is a shinobi, so she is legally an adult. Zabuza was impressed when Ayame didn't appear to be afraid of Haku, and Chuki believes that he is a wonderful man. Evidently, she stated that if Zabuza was in charge of Haku's kindness, he couldn't be completely evil. Because it could damage his already damaged reputation, he asked her to keep it a secret. Kakashi and Naruto both found that amusing. Additionally, Hiashi asked me to occasionally train with Hinata. They still don't know what's wrong with her Byakugan, so she's not allowed to use it except on missions or in a supervised spar with another Hyuga present, Naruto said, ignoring Kakashi's snorts. He thinks I'm a good influence on her. There is no longer any taijutsu training. What's left since you both possess above average chakra control for your rank and age? Normally, we only engage in physical training. Recently, we have also been working on escaping an enemy's hold. Getting out from under them if we're pinned down is one example. Both Kakashi's question and the evil smirk that was forming were hidden from Naruto by Kakashi's mask. Which do you prefer, then? Are you pinning her or her pinning you? What are you talking about? Naruto stammered, flushed. Oh, you understand what I mean, he said, noticing the smirk now, complete with an eye smile. Which would you prefer, her being in control or you being in control? Kakashi's eyes strayed to the box containing his team photo, and Naruto gaped, trying to think of a way to respond without sounding like a pervert. Minato. Sensei, you should be the one making fun of your son for this, not me, but since you can't be here, I'm more than happy to do it. Naruto was sitting on a park bench at 3 in the afternoon, watching the people go by. Sarutobi's training had ended early because he had to attend a council meeting today, and he didn't want to go home just yet, and everyone else would still be training with their team. Naruto could put up with the cruel taunts about him wrestling with Hinata, but Kakashi's recommendations for the moves or holds he should perform next were a little excessive. His habit of sitting and observing the crowd was quickly becoming a new pastime for him. He had begun it as a training exercise, and although he had initially been dismayed that his new exercise required so much sitting, he had become somewhat interested after Sarutobi had explained that it was meant to improve his observational abilities. In order to demonstrate his point, Sarutobi had chosen a random couple who were looking into the window of a formal clothing store and started making a number of guesses about their personalities and lives. He also estimated that the two had been together for more than 3 years and had recently gotten engaged. When Naruto asked how he had come to that conclusion, Sarutobi said that they were holding on to each other, which suggested a relationship. The length of the relationship came from the way they were holding each other. Younger couples tended to cling to one another. The two were close, but held each other loosely. Neither was wearing a wedding ring, so they were probably not married. Since then, Naruto has frequently used his leisure time to observe others around him, becoming so engrossed in the activity that he nearly failed to hear the person approaching. Would it be okay if I joined you, Naruto-kun? You may proceed, Haku. How is the academy doing? It's an amazing experience. Yumino.san claims that the reason he is so laid back is because you are no longer interfering with his classes. With a laugh, Naruto said, good old Iruka, sensei. One of these days I should really go see him. Since I'm not there to liven up his boring lectures, things have been far too easy for him. However, I still don't understand how he was able to get me back later. How has life in Konoha been going for you? Although I haven't had a chance to speak with you recently, I am aware of Zabuza's situation. I'm happy to be present. Simply put, everyone has been incredibly friendly, both shinobi and civilians. But now I can see why you feel that way about mistreating a Kekai Genkai. Hokage. Sama informed me that, should I so desire, I will be qualified for missions following the conclusion of the current academy semester. Some of the villagers approached me after word spread, claiming that missions would be simple with my Kekai Genkai, as though my skill with ice were the only factor contributing to my proficiency as a ninja. Well, that isn't true, as we both know. I've observed you working out. You've reached a point where you could likely take the chunin exam and pass without ever using it, now that you and Zabuza are not on the run. The villagers are accustomed to saying that to someone who has a Kekai Genkai. It has never bothered me that the clans have always taken great pride in their special skills. It is simply foolish to overlook something that could provide you with an advantage. When they become so preoccupied with that special talent that they neglect everything else, that's where I draw the line. Simply put, you haven't demonstrated to the villagers that you disagree with the clan's point of view. What do you think of Konoha, though, aside from that? is a fantastic location. According to Zabuza, Sama, Konoha shinobi were strange by other villages' standards. I simply thought he was referring to their consistently superior skills. I didn't understand what he meant until we moved here. Regardless of whether they are on a mission or not, shinobi are emotionless, frigid tools in every other shinobi village I have ever heard of. That's only partially true here. We are professionals when on assignment, as we should be, but most of us behave like any other villager when we're not on duty. Although we are shinobi, we are also people. That attitude appeals to me the most. Being permitted, if not encouraged, to lead a life apart from our jobs is pleasant. But the Yamanaka clan and their flower shop intrigue me. Why they would have two jobs, especially ones that are so dissimilar, is beyond me. Yeah, I had the same thought when I first met Ino at the academy, Naruto chuckled. When I asked if she was only going to be a part-time ninja, she gave me a very bad beating. I heard the backstory from sensei. When Konoha was first established, a lot of construction was taking place. It was difficult to find any kind of garden. Some of the older training grounds and construction sites were converted from the fields that the original settlers used. The catch was that, in addition to food, gardens were required to grow the plants we use as poisons and medications. Ultimately, it was agreed to construct a greenhouse, which would cultivate those plants until window-box-sized personal gardens became an option. The Yamanaka clan was given responsibility for the greenhouse because they had few other important responsibilities for the village at the time. They decided to earn a little cash after things settled down and individual gardens began to appear. They continued to grow a lot of shinobi plants while also opening a store that sold flowers and gardening supplies. However, since the public greenhouse is still available, why would anyone grow their own toxic and therapeutic plants? Because there are restrictions on the number of plants that an individual may take for use, excluding the hospital. There is a monthly limit on the number of plants you can take. The hospital is free to take as much as it desires at any time. Would your classmate Ino be knowledgeable about poisons given that kind of background? I'm not really sure, you know. She never demonstrated any aptitude with them, but at the academy when I was a student, that subject wasn't really discussed in detail. However, I have no doubt that she would at least be aware of which plant species are toxic and which are not. I see, Haku said, nodding. I want to ask you a question. This comes from both Ayame-chan and me. Okay, shoot, is there any chance you and Hinata-san could join us for a double date? I wasn't expecting that one, Naruto said, blinking. What caused this? Ayame-chan thinks that you two make a really cute couple, quote. I'm willing to believe her when she says that you two get along, even though I haven't seen it myself. I'm not promising anything, but I'll ask Hinata-chan the next time I see her. That is all we ask. What pastimes have you and Zabuza engaged in during your leisure time? Haku laughed and said, we're still looking for ones that work for us. Initially, I had considered attempting to create ornamental ice sculptures. Naturally, I had no trouble creating the ice, but it turns out that I am a bad sculptor and I don't have enough time to become proficient. After a while, I became angry and melted what I had made into ice cubes. In actuality, that act was quite therapeutic. You take pleasure in ruining your creations. I guess whatever works for you. How about Zabuza? Zabuza. Sama is finding it much more difficult to adjust to our new lifestyle, let alone find a hobby. Playing darts at a bar during his off-duty time is the best he's been able to do so far. I believe that the only reason he is capable of doing so much at this time is because he is equating training for projectile weapons with playing darts. Naruto heard something and looked up to see a messenger bird flying overhead, dropping a letter into Naruto's lap before turning around and flying away again. I'm sure you'll both find something, Naruto said. It appears that before his meeting, Sensei would like to discuss something with me. Haku, we'll talk later. Good day, Naruto.kun. Sensei, you wanted to see me. I did, indeed. Tomorrow afternoon was chosen as the new date for the council meeting. I gave you a call back to discuss your position on the forthcoming chunin exams. Naruto's expression brightened. You're putting me forward. Regards, Sensei. You are the best. Naruto.kun, you've gotten ahead of yourself, sighed Sarutobi. There aren't two free genin to take the test with you, so I can't enter you. I also couldn't change the rules enough to let you take it alone without facing criticism from the other villages. The smile faded. So, why did you want to discuss the chunin exams with me? Telling me I can't handle them. I can't get promoted if I can't take the tests. You're not entirely right. The chunin exams aren't the only path to promotion, but you can't take them. There are other options. So why is there no discussion about them? According to Genin, the exams are the only promotion mechanism they are aware of. The explanation is straightforward. Before letting them know about the other options, we want Genin to take the exams and attempt to get promoted that way at least once. It benefits the village. What? The chunin exams present to prospective customers the best that each participating village has to offer. New customers are not drawn to the village by the other routes. That's one of the reasons. Additionally, there is the money that both the test takers and those who attend the exams bring into the village. They cover the cost of their meals, housing, exam admission, and maybe some shopping while they're here. Every time the chunin exams are held, the location is contested because of that financial infusion. So, you're placing me on one of the other routes. I am, indeed, an acting chunin mission that is directly related to the impending exams will be given to you. It will start prior to the start of the exams and conclude following them. Your mission will consist of 3 components, just like the exams. You will be granted complete chunin status if you successfully finish 2 of those 3 components. Can you tell me what the 3 parts are now, or do I need to wait until later? Asked Naruto, his curiosity piqued. Naruto took out a notebook, and Sarutobi produced a map of the elemental countries. I don't see why I can't, Naruto said. Sarutobi indicated a particular outpost on the outskirts of Kuni, where some of the foreign participants would be gathering. Naruto took note of it and said, the first part of your mission will be to go there and escort the foreign shinobi to Konoha. All foreign shinobi must arrive safely for the event to be considered successful, though there may be an exception for exceptional circumstances. That's a lot to ask of one person, sensei. You don't understand. In the event of an attack, I have every expectation that the teams will be able to defend themselves. They shouldn't be taking the exams if they aren't. It is your duty to lead them to Konoha. It is not your concern if they decide to quarrel with one another. The conduct of their team is the responsibility of each sensei. In any case, the second part will involve you assisting Iruka, myself, and a few other people in supervising and administering the exams. You won't be involved in proctoring any of the 3 sections. Instead, you will be working in the background to ensure that everything is going as smoothly as possible. Success in this situation is simply determined by how well you complete the tasks that are given to you. The third and last section is fairly simple. For the third section of the exam, you will act as an alternate. You will take that spot if there are an unequal number of competitors or if someone doesn't show up. I believed it would be beneficial for you to see your position in relation to the others. So, Naruto.kun, do you think you can manage this? Well, it's a lot for one person, but I think I can handle it, Naruto said, consulting his notes to see what he would have to do. However, I do have a question. By all means, ask. How could you set up such a mission for me? How can you put all of this together without anyone complaining? I understand that you are in charge of this kind of stuff. By following standard procedure, Sarutobi said, removing a sheet of paper from a desk drawer. This form needs to be completed in order to request an acting rank mission. In addition to mine, it needs the signatures of 2 shinobi of Junin rank. In the event that a request is granted and the mission fails, you must wait a year before submitting another request. I've completed your form for you. Signing this will grant you access to the mission. That doesn't sound so hard. It's simple to locate the 2 Junin sponsors. Getting my permission is the difficult part. These requests account for at least 15 to 20% of my monthly paperwork. Of them all, fewer than half are accepted. So, who paid for me? Let's check. Hiashi Hyuga and Shibi Aburame. That's Shino's father, right? He would sponsor me, but why? That's correct, said Sarutobi with a smile. You wouldn't recall. What? Do you recall? Everything was in disarray when you were a baby. I had attempted, but failed, to keep you in constant view. You were a handful even back then. The Aburame clan then intervened. You would spend the night with me and my family while they watched you during the day. I think this went on until you were 16 months old. I then placed you in the system of orphanages. Why would they offer to take care of me? You have always been viewed by the Aburame as a kind of distant relative. They are not always welcomed, just like you, and the villagers often mistake them for their tenants. The primary distinction is that there is only one of you and numerous of them. Yeah, but their tenants didn't nearly destroy the village and kill everyone. True, but that isn't to say it hasn't happened on a smaller scale. What? Emotional restraint is essential for the Aburame. When the host gives them instructions, their colonies comply. The Kikai also react when the host is feeling emotion. If an Aburame gives into their rage, their colonies will retaliate by attacking the source of their rage. Any emotion will do. Anger isn't even necessary. I recall that some village kids decided to check if an Aburame was ticklish some 20 or 30 years ago. After they were successful, they recuperated from the event for the next 2 weeks. Their target lost control, started laughing, and was almost killed by his Kikai's attack. So they were willing to look after me because we had a lot in common. Yes, Shibi approached me to ask for my approval to adopt you around the time of your first birthday. Saying no killed me, but the Yondaime's orders, I know. Shibi was particularly unhappy. He inquired as to why I was deviating from my custom of trying to protect you as much as possible. He persisted despite my attempts to reassure him that I knew what I was doing. I decided to take a chance and showed him the letter of instructions from Yondaime. He is still the only person who has seen the entire letter, aside from Yondaime and me. He became more sympathetic to my plight after that and pledged to do everything in his power to assist me in matters pertaining to you. Didn't he see the part about Yondaime wanting to look after me? No, one of the last people to notice that would have been an Aburame. Why? Few people were more qualified for the position of Hokage than the Yondaime, both as a shinobi and as a role model. But to be nice, his abilities as a writer, speaker, and administrator were mediocre at best. Though he frequently struggled to find the right words, he knew what he wanted to say. His tendency to say the worst thing at the worst moment was very strong, but as he grew older, that tendency vanished. He would have destroyed the village by himself long before the Kyuubi arrived if it weren't for his sensei, Jiraiya, who wrote his speeches and me, who helped him hone his administrative abilities. Why would Shino's father not be able to see it? It seems like the only people in Konoha that Yondaime trusted were Jiraiya, Kakashi, and me, if one were to read the letter without knowing him personally. For 10 years, I took it that way, even though there was always something strange about that statement. I didn't realize that the three of us were the only people in Konoha he trusted to look after you until I read it again 2 years ago and realized how he believed I understood what he had intended to write. Yondaime wasn't someone Shibi knew well. Furthermore, Aburame people are not well suited for mental profiling due to their traditional mindset. So his clan views me as family, so he sponsored me for this. That doesn't sound like an Aburame, no offense intended. There is no logical explanation. He added that it was his method of saying, thank you. On that joint C rank, it seems that you said something to Shino. Yes, we were discussing ways to increase our skill sets. He remarked that he was unable to use most nin, or genjutsu because of the continuous chakra drain. I reminded him that he could work on other things. He promised to give it some thought. You gave him the family tirade, didn't you? He did, in fact, consider it. Shino has the potential to become the most powerful Aburame of his generation, if not of recent history, according to Shibi. In addition to some of the more potent clan techniques, he has been working with methods that the Aburame have not employed in many generations. I haven't seen a few of them since I was your age. Anyway, I'll have to give Shino's father credit. Here you go, sensei. Naruto returned the form to a grinning Sarutobi after signing it. You know, I'm still not used to you calling me sensei. Yes, indeed, 6 months off sensei, contrasted with 10 years of Oji.san. Have a good day, Naruto.kun. You too, sensei. Sarutobi turned to face the vault containing the other half of Naruto's inheritance after Naruto left. He was tempted every day to simply give Naruto the scroll and be done with it, but he wasn't sure what kept him from doing so other than respect for the Yondaime's wishes. After a few minutes, he stood up, put on his hat, and left the room because he had been released early today and he wouldn't be daring to stay and risk them finding him something to do.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.